Drop that bitch on her head like bang.
What's going on, everybody? Fired Up Fridays. Another week down. A lot of stuff happening in the world. Wars. Shooting massacre in Maine. And the Panelverse. Ian's back. Fucking some shit up. Pretty crazy stuff going on. A lot of unity I see going on. A lot of real life analysis of the way people are. Bowing down to others. You got to be your head motherfucker charge of you. Don't let anyone tell you what to do. Don't let anyone push you around. Don't take anyone's shit. Seriously. If you're a grown man, you just got to do what you got to do. You got to, stand what's true and right. And, life is good. But got a lot of new viewers today, thanks to Zetetic Warrior. Little people that know about me, you may have seen me on other panels doing other things. With my intro there, clearly I have a competition truck. I like bass. I like to compete. I like shit loud because I can't hear anything. I'm freaking old. But it's a way of life, just like anything else. Not just, sitting on YouTube all day long. I go out and actually live a real life. But Z will be up here in a little bit. See, he's in the chat. So you got a lot of people in the chat. Snafu, always a pleasure. Don't judge me, Jen. Good to see you. Yolanda, good to see you. Mad Mac, apparently we got some bad blood. I'm not sure what that's about. It's all good, though. RT, good to see you. Sophia's here. Chuck, there you go, Chuck. Good to see your brother. Good to see your daughter's doing well. Arpol, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. Who else we got in here? That's pretty much everybody. At least anybody. Oh, no, Capricorni. I see Capricorni there. Sterling Ray, there you are, sir. Welcome back. Bad Barney, my original moderator, keeping people in check. But honestly, it's been pretty civil over here. Dr. Poolboy John Mazzeo, welcome. First time, looks like. Scrolling through here. I think I'm getting everybody. Don't want to leave anyone out because I know I like it when someone calls my name out. Like, oh, HMFIC's here. Like, yeah, that's right, baby. That's right. Oh, it's not going to do it. All right. Anyway, Divine Spirit 313. Hello. Angela Baby Carson. Good to see ya. Let's see. Sean Alke. Welcome. I think that's about it. Yeah, looks like everybody's here. Looking at the chat, seeing if I'm missing anything, anybody. Right on. We, Mike Zadunich, I think I got that correct. Welcome. And Lizzo, is Lizzo here? Oh, yeah, yep, there's Lizzo. Good to see you, Lizzo. So a funny story. Eating dinner with the wife, and told her Z was coming, and he's a flat earther, educated flat earther. I'm not sure how long. We'll find out when he gets get ready to pop up in here. But she's heard me talk about flat Earth stuff, and really I don't go into detail because we all know flat Earth is just pretty complicated, especially when you are a globie, and it's hard to just fathom. It's hard to fathom that. What do you mean we're not on a globe? Or are we on a globe? Or are we not on a globe? Or is it a crater Earth? London. So I had she was asking quite a few questions, and it's interesting trying to explain to somebody. I remember how I felt the first time around when Z actually brought it to me, and it's been about 7 months since it kind of like was put into my head that that's even a possibility. But very cool, going down the rabbit hole and just searching stuff and just coming to a realization that it's all a lie. Everything is a freaking lie. Our rights and freedoms are a lie. The world is a lie. What's that? What's that, Mad Mac? I'm curious, Mad Mac. Clearly, Steven, I think is his name. No, that's not the right one. It's not the shape you can't handle, Steve. It's a lie you won't believe. Okay. I can dig it. That's fine. Everyone has a right to their opinions and whatnot. Whether or not I agree or don't agree, feel free to click the link there, Mad Mac, and we can go around and see what comes of it. But yeah, so just going back to where I was, when it comes to flat Earth, I once I realized, that our government could have or did. Really, there's no proof, but the moon landing, the space race with Russia and the competition back then, they've pre-filmed it just in case we didn't make it, propaganda, just like they did with the nuclear bomb testing, where you see the buildings getting blown all over the place, and then there's a car behind the building, and then there's not a car behind the building. So it is, something to take in, and again, it's what you look up, what you want to believe. Really, it's what it boils down to, is what you want to believe, what information you find, to justify, your thoughts. But got to tell you, I give, hands down to all of the panel hosts out there. It's a lot of work, to pay attention to what's going on in chat, what I'm trying to say. Not to say I say a lot, apparently. I'm going to make a song about it with me just going But I'm going to go ahead, Snafu, you're in the back. You said you got some stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and bring you up. What's going on, Snafu? You there, pal?
I am Mr. DD. How are you tonight?
Well, welcome, sir.
Funny
Welcome.
you bring the flat Earth stuff. It's all propaganda. The world's a lie, as you said. But you ever see the video of I think Armstrong, whatever his name is, that basically told a little kid we never landed on the moon? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up because I'm going to go ahead and play this little video here for you, pal.
Okay, I got gold for you too afterwards.
NASA will straight up tell you we destroyed the technology to go to the moon.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
But they destroyed the technology and they can't go back. It's ridiculous. There's an interview with Buzz Aldrin, actually, where he's being interviewed by a little girl. Her question was,
why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
After 50 years.
So, yeah. Talking about that video clip?
Yes, sir. The optics are out. No, I'm glad you're diving into these things. And like I said, Steve, it's always good to see people waking up and putting their truth, yo, and everyone's truth, yo. Speaking of truth, yo, I got something that we got content gold here if you want. The man himself, Mr. Paul Unslavia of the Unslavia Slavia, said he's going to sue me because of my bobbleheads I'm coming out with. I got a 3D printer, Mr. Steve, and we're going to start creating some bobbleheads. And if you do, or anyone wants to catch it, it's on 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 1:06:18. And he goes into detail about he's going to take me to court for the bobbleheads. So I'll see you in court, I guess, because the bobbleheads are coming, Mr. Paul Enslaved. That's all I got to say.
Right on. Well, you do what you got to do, Snafu. I guess I was going to put a disclaimer up. I really didn't want to talk about Paul at all. I don't really want to bring all that here.
Well, you
know
know
what I
what,
mean?
let me I get that, but let's put it in perspective. We'll talk about the fake earth, all this other shit that you're going to talk about. I also got to expose me personally, these people who act like they're what they are. Deception is everywhere. No one's better than anyone. So I get it. I'm going to respect it. But for everyone out there, 1 hour, 6 minutes, 18, Mr. Enslaved, who says he doesn't go into courts, talks about suing me for bobbleheads.
Well,
And that's all I got to say.
good luck for him to go ahead and want to feel to do that, because that's what men do, right?
For bobbleheads.
Yeah. So,
But I got yours ready, man. We're gonna put like a chia pet for your like beard. We're gonna make it. Yeah, they'll rock on, bro. But no, honestly, I wanted to tell you that the clips that you just played with the flat Earth.
Mhm.
I know you have your thoughts on biblical type stuff, right? And I respect that 1,000,000%. You know, like your thoughts and your journey. Even according to biblical, up to the Mandela effect, the flat Earth optics are in there too. And it is something that, yeah, I think Z is one of the best people to explain it to people. But just be careful, because you got them flat Earth smackers and slappers going around too. So just, Mr. Z is the perfect person to either slap you or smack you into it the right way. And I do encourage you to keep looking into all these optics, because it's not even just the Earth. You got the mud flood, all that stuff. And, some of it's bullshit, some of it's not. I think these propaganda, the great deceptions among us, period. And I liked what you said earlier, Steve, where you said under your name, it's all a lie. So anyways, you have a good night, man. And I'll be stoked to listen to you guys' conversation about the flat Earth.
all right, brother. Good seeing you, man.
All right, man.
Let me know about the bobblehead. I'll get one.
Yeah, the bobblehead's coming soon, man. And the 3D printers, man, pretty cool, man. Have you ever fucked around with those?
Not a 3D printer. I had a CNC, so I kind of
okay.
I understand what.
Yeah, this one has a little laser cutter too and shit. So we were doing clock shit, but no, it'll be fun, man. A little project, and yeah, I just wanted to fucking say hi real quick. But yeah, man, fucking excited to hear the convo and get deep with it, man. Ask those hard questions.
Right on, brother. Thank you for stopping by. Have a good one, man. Well, the man of the hour, Mr. Zetetic Warrior, welcome. First time guest. Appreciate the shout out this morning. I think I gained about 20 subscribers today, almost at 200. 200.
Nice, man. It's good stuff.
Right
It's good
on.
to be here, man. I'm following Snafu. He's a tough act to follow.
He's got the bobblehead, man. Come on.
Snafu, if you do my bobblehead, are you going to go with the dark beanie or the new light colored beanie? Let me know. I'm okay with either one, just so you know.
Good stuff. So I'm going to add flow states in the back, and I got Dominic here. I'm going to add these guys to the conversation. But so Z, it's been 7 months. 7 months since our first real interaction, I could say. I actually have a clip that I want to show, which shows just how far people can come, from not liking somebody to basically getting along with somebody.
Yeah, I remember it was quite a fiery interaction.
Yeah. So this is you and I on Peniel's panel. This is before we got deep and down into some other stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and play here.
Is the truth. It's amazing.
DD214, dude, you got hater vibes, dude. You got hater. I forgot about that. I've been seeing it for days with you, dude.
This motherfucker
I've been
sees
watching
everything I see and always
What's
calls
the name? Look, we all
DD214.
know you're a
He's military.
fucking
Fuck
charhead.
that guy.
Look, we all know you're a
Yeah.
charhead retard, dude, but it's beyond that. Beyond
You can
that,
call me
dude.
names. It doesn't hurt my
You have no
feelings.
true leaders.
Oh man, that's some good shit, right?
Well, I called you a jarhead. That's a jarhead retard, matter of
Yeah,
fact.
told me I was an alcoholic, amongst other things. But
What was my problem? What got me fired up? What was the I don't remember.
That was
Who
right
knows?
after that girl came in, and I asked her if she had ever been punched in the face, and that literally broke everybody. They couldn't believe I would say that to a girl. Asked her if she ever got punched in the face.
Gotcha.
You remember that, don't you?
Yeah, I remember that chick. That's right. I remember that chick. Shout out in the chat to Dr. Poolboy John Mazzio. We're gonna shout that guy out. Just saying.
Who's that? He's a
I don't know.
new guy here.
Yeah, I don't know. He looks familiar though. He kind of looks like me with glasses and a sun hat.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So we got some fuckers in here. That's all good.
Yeah. But he's a doctor in the profession of pool boy. So good for him.
I used to be a pool boy.
Some of the most devoted viewers.
I used to be a pool boy. I did pool solar down here for about 10 years. So we did solar panels, solar heating panels, pool pumps, filters, all that good stuff. So basically a plumber, pretty much. You did the same shit, don't you?
Oh, I do. I've done all kinds of shit, man. It's too much to even get into right now. I'm one of those guys that have kind of done a lot up to this point. All kinds of stuff. But I don't have a doctorate in pool boying. Just saying. My doctorate's elsewhere. It's in other things. It's also not a doctorate in flat earth, if anybody is wondering. You can't really get those. They don't have that as a degree.
So were you watching? Were you watching when I was talking about my wife and I having a conversation?
Yeah. I heard about it. I'm excited. Like maybe your wife will watch this afterwards and just kind of pique her interest and see what's up with it, man.
Maybe not.
Who knows, man?
She does not. She's not interested in my hobbies at all. Like if you see her in my truck and I'm playing bass, like she just tolerates it. She's like, whatever, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I love you. She's
probably better off, man. This idea that couples need to like have commonalities, we need to share, certain hobbies and interests. I'm not buying that. Why would I, as a man, have the same interests as a woman? Of course, there's going to be some things, but you're not going to want to watch the same movies as me. You're not going to want to do the same stuff. So what's the fucking big deal? It doesn't have to be like that. Who says it has to be like that? That's another conversation.
Preferable to have different hobbies.
Yeah, for sure.
Like different Facebook profiles. You don't want to share a fucking Facebook profile with your wife. That's the optics. The optics are cucked.
You always know when you see someone comment on your post, Mike and Gloria Evans. Like, yeah, okay, Mike, good job, buddy.
Well, there goes my respect for him. Instantly gone. Like,
because it's not his Facebook, it's her Facebook.
Yeah,
that's good stuff. But no, man, we're gonna do some flat earth stuff tonight. What was it? Now? I don't know. I haven't seen Tommy. I think Tommy's mad at me. I think I set him up one stream over here, and I don't know. I don't know. He hasn't been around since I guess.
Covert contracts come with being friends with Tommy.
I enjoy Tommy. I mean, he's funny as fuck. You know what I mean? He will go up against anybody, anywhere, anytime. Really. A lot of people don't like him; they can't stand him. But
yeah, even though I'm like constantly bickering with him, I actually do like him and like his content. But he's just impossible to get along with for any length of time.
So
I love Tommy, by the way. Just put it out there. I'm a Tommy guy.
I think most of us are. He doesn't like to hear it. You know what I mean? He's like, you want to hug him, and give him a little kiss on the forehead, and he's like pushing you away, like, stop it. Don't give me the love. I don't want to be loved. It's easier to hate. Well,
preemptively reject people's love. Right, he wants the cupcakes.
So yeah, I was originally just going to do a stream tonight about what was going on with people that we mutually know, just kind of bending over and taking it in the ass, being your own man, like my name, head motherfucker in charge of Steve, like I'm in charge of me, and you see other people not being in charge of themselves. They let someone else being in charge of themselves. That was my goal for tonight, at least for off topic. If, the flat earth conversation goes sideways or whatnot, or just mix a whole bunch of shit together like usual. I normally don't have structure. I like to have a guideline to kind of, hey, let's stick. What do you think about this? So let's do this. At least have some kind of topic to keep the conversation going. But it's all freelance. But you this morning, Z, you kind of pumped me up. And you're like, yeah, man, I'm gonna come over there and talk some flat Earth shit. So I'm all about it.
I figured it. Well, because you had said it a while ago. You said, Z, I do some flat Earth stuff. We talk about the Earth, and I said, you know what? All right, let me come over. Let's just fucking do it. I was in a mood with the flat Earth thing. I'm realizing, Steve, that I'm not afraid to call myself a flat earther. For a lot of people, they don't want to embrace that term because it comes with a lot of bullshit, right? It comes with certain expectations, certain understandings, and people classify you in a certain way. But I don't care. I'll say it. I'm a flat earther, and I'm realizing now that places me in a very particular category. I'm not going to escape that. If I'm a flat earther, I'm going to be a flat earther. So I realize it pigeonholes me in a certain way. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to jump into it. I haven't been shy about it up to this point, and I'm not going to stop. I see there's a tendency as people become content creators, as they start to grow or as they have some goal to, progress and grow their channel, they understand they have to become more moderate on certain topics. Either that or just as a natural tendency. Because the more niche you are, well, the more you're going to limit your demographic, right? But I'm realizing that. So, okay, I don't want to compromise the flat Earth thing. So I realize either I need to embrace it or take another stance. I'm just going to go with it. So I'm into the full flat Earth thing. So, and I've been that way since I've been on here. So I thought this was a good place to go because my first conversation with you after what you showed, where I called you a jarhead retard, I think was the term. After that, we got into the whole flat Earth thing, and it was passionate, man. Like I was, we were getting in our emotions. I know at least I was. I like to have a nice conversation where it's not emotional. It's more of a discourse. I know there's flat earthers in the chat. I could see them, and I know there's globies in the chat because I saw Bad Barney No Bullet. He's probably the ultimate globie I've ever seen. So, maybe just a nice conversation, and then you see where it goes. It's kind of what I'm down for, man.
Going back to that clip, you're correct. But we were streaming late. It was like 5 a.m. Just got doing the whole rhetoric with Paul. I fucking got off, and I'm all like, "Fuck, what the fuck, man? Like this is not enjoyable." And then, I was watching, and like, come back. So I'm like, all right, I'll come back. And it was like the first time being on these panels, actually having a real conversation. You know what I mean? About anything. Without having to like defend my personality and defend my life. Like I was like, all right. And it was, you punched me in the mouth with it. I'm like, flat Earth, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. Out of nowhere. I did a flat smack.
Yeah.
Was saying, and you're like, what are we talking about? And now we're here. Now you're like watching videos and stuff. I heard you mention Crater Earth. So I guess it was a good thing that I did it, man. It's weird how things work. I'll just tell you, for me, man, I first heard about the flat Earth in 2015. That's kind of when it launched on YouTube. Now, you have to understand, flat Earth didn't start on YouTube. As soon as they started mentioning a globe in relation to this Earth in popular academia and education, as soon as that started coming out, flat Earthers came out. It was right around the late 1800s, and they really started pushing it, okay? As soon as they started pushing it, people came out and said, whoa, this really doesn't hold up to scrutiny. A lot of people think flat Earth is a YouTube thing that's new. It's not. But 2015 is when it hit really big on YouTube. It was very late 2014, but 2015 was the year that flat Earth exploded on YouTube and other social media. That's when I heard it. It was a video that came out. It just said we could see too far, the Earth is flat. Now, I didn't reject it outright. I just said, okay, that's interesting. I don't believe it, but let me just register that in the back of my mind and my consciousness. We could see too far. They're saying it's flat. That's crazy, and I'm trying to figure it out. It was only 2 years later. It took me 2 years. I wasn't doing intensive research, but I was just kind of listening. I've always been around these communities, right? 2017, finally, one day, somebody said something. The thing they said, it was like the dam broke. When the dam broke, it was the thing that clicked in my consciousness. I had a complete paradigm shift, and it all hit me at once. And I said, fuck, this is a real thing. So it took me 2 years. And then from 2017, I'm a fucking flat earther. Now here we are in 2023, and all the things that, went along with it. So that's kind of was my journey a little bit. It took me 2 years. So like you said, I kind of planted the seed with you 6 or 7 months ago. Now we're here at least having a rational conversation about it, but I'm a flat earther's flat earther. The thing about flat earthers is we know each other. Like I could see Sean Alke. He knows, we both know we're flat earthers. Mad Mac, we know it. Emmanuel, know it. You see, we just know each other when we see each other. There's certain things we could pick it up very quickly. We know each other when we see it. We see other people. There's the other people. They're like, oh, it could be a globe. It could be flat. Oh, what does it matter? Blah, blah, blah. But flat earthers know each other. We call it like Angela Baby Carson. Same thing. You just know them when you see them because it's a vibe and it's understanding. It's a worldview. It's a lifestyle. So that's kind of a little bit about my journey. As far as my life, I mean, there's consequences to being a flat earther. Any flat earther in here knows that. There's consequences. You start telling your loved one that you think that the earth is level horizontal and it's a fucking flat earth, there's going to be consequences. You start telling people at the Thanksgiving table, you start telling your uncle who's the engineer, you start telling your cousin who's some smart mathematician, you tell your old uncle whose father worked for NASA and designed something for the Apollo missions. They're just going to think you're crazy. You're going to be ridiculed. You're going to be minimized. You're going to be made to feel as though you're the fool. There's consequences to embracing a lot of truths. It's not that much different in the past 3 years. If you're a person who said, I'm not sure about this recommendation that popular medicine is recommending for this, so-called pandemic, and people would react similarly. But the flat earth has a particular reaction from people because everyone is already programmed to think it's the stupidest thing you could ever say. Oh, well, people used to think the earth was flat until we became smarter, until we learned. People are predisposed to think it's literally moronic. Now we're walking around here being looked at as the morons. What we understand that most don't realize is the world is under a mass deception, a deception the likes of which are hard to comprehend. And to me, that's the biggest issue with understanding the lies of NASA, the lies of the globe, and embracing that we live in a level horizontal world, is because most people cannot grasp the magnitude of the deception. So because they can't understand how or why such a huge deception could be perpetrated, they reject the evidence that shows that there are no proofs to the globe and heliocentric model. And indeed, all proofs point to a level horizontal world in which oceans do not show curvature. Water lies level and flat when at rest. That's sort of like the basics of it, man. And just take me wherever you want to go, and anybody feel free to jump in.
Well, I was wanting to start off in a sense for, I have followers here. I'm going to assume a lot of them, are from all the panels that we all kind of see each other at. I do have other people, friends and family that are on here. And I had, an uncle of mine. He's like, oh, Steve's talking about this flat earth. What's wrong with your son? He's telling my mother, and because my mother's telling me this. And I'm like, Ma, I was like, you just got to watch the video. You just got to see what I'm talking about. Like, if it makes sense to you, then great. It does sound crazy because, when Max, I work with Max Avelli, when one day he's sitting down, and I look over and he says something about flat earth. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Flat earth. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Like initially I'm like, you're retarded. You're dumb. What are you smoking kind of thing? And then, all right, I'll look into it. I'm looking into everything else. I might as well look into flat earth. And it was welcomed because I was so getting into you know, the you know, God and the higher power, you know, and and it was just like I was kind of getting nowhere with it. I was just studying, you know, rights and law, you know, and it was getting just boring. It was getting, you know, tedious, and it was a nice break. I'm like, oh, look at this shit, because I love science. You know what I mean? I love Star Trek. My whole life I've watched Star Trek. You know what I mean? So in my mind, you know, it was like that's where I wanted to go. So I looked into it, a lot of it. And I think to start with is, how do you get, like, even today with talking to my wife, like I literally wanted to just spill all this stuff that I knew real quick, you know, about flat earth. And it was like, she's like, hold on, wait a minute. You know, this is what, you know, and I'm like, no, they don't like that model or something that, you know, looks this way. So there's a certain way you got to go to kind of ease it in on somebody. Right.
Right.
So let's
Exactly.
start there. Let's start there. Like, whether or not you're going to be a conspiracy theorist, or you think the government's going to lie to us, you know, that helps, you know, because your mind is open a little bit towards that, you know, thinking, that way of thinking. So that's where I like to start. How do we get someone into the conversation without making them run for the hills? You know what I mean? What is the best way to kind of attack that?
Here's what I say. I always like to start with this. I like to start with logic. I always start there, because the reality is, when you start to have this conversation, people's minds are going to go in a million directions. They're going to say, what about all the scientists that say this? What about NASA? What about this? What about that? Right? And they're going to present a bunch of things, but in reality, everything that they'll say will likely not hold up to logic. Okay? So I start with the basics. I say this. Before we start talking about what this world is, let's talk about logic and who has the burden of proof when it comes to a claim. So that's what I say like this, because the flat earth is not a claim, right? The claim is we live on a rotating globe that's orbiting the sun in a solar system, which exists in a galaxy, which exists in the universe. That's the claim, all right? Not only is it a claim, it's a claim that goes against all observable reality. Meaning to say, if you never heard the subject, right? If you lived in a tribe somewhere and you were born into that tribe, you never were acquainted or introduced to popular education or academia, what do you really see, feel, and experience about this world? Do you feel like you're moving? Because they tell us we're moving at incalculable speeds in multiple directions. No, you don't feel like you're moving. The sky, you look up, you see the sky moving, right? But that's the opposite. The claim is, no, we're actually moving. The ground is moving, and relatively speaking, the sky is what's still, okay? That's your experience. When you look at the sun, you see the sun come and go. You see the moon come and go. You see the stars come and go. They're telling you that, no, that's not really what's happening. That as you're watching that sun come and go, it's actually standing still, relatively speaking to you. You're the one that's moving. And the sun's not going away. It's actually going below the horizon. The sun rises and sets. My point is this. The claim is the heliocentric model. The claim is the globe. They're telling you that they know what the cosmology is. Logically speaking, the burden of proof is on the claimant. I'll say it like this, Steve. Let's talk about, Steve, I'm going to make a claim. We're missing a cookie. Somebody stole a cookie from the cookie jar, and it's you, Steve. You stole the cookie from the cookie jar, right? I just made a claim against you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who has the burden? Do you have the burden to prove your innocence? Or do I have the burden to prove my claim? Obviously, the burden's on me. Let's look at a court of law.
Right.
If you claim, if somebody claims you killed somebody, there's no burden on you. You don't even have to speak in your trial. The burden is on the one making the claim to prove it. That's logical. So I always bring down the logic. I say, there's a claim being made. There's a claim being made that we know what this place is. We know the cosmology. So I say this, okay, you make the claim. Where's the proof? I and others like me who consider ourselves flat earthers, we are under no obligation to prove a flat earth. We're under no obligation to even disprove your claim. You need to prove it. When in the absence of evidence and proof for your globe, where do we stand? So you asked where to start. That's where we start. Where's the burden? Because people always say to me, prove to me we live on a flat earth. Tell me, okay, if it's not what science is saying, science in quotes, if it's not what the cosmologists and the astrophysicists are saying, if it's not what NASA's saying and all the governments, then what is it, Z? You tell me. And I say, well, let's back up. The claim is the globe. The claim is we're orbiting the sun. Where's the proof? Show me the proof. All right. So I would encourage anybody who wants to go down that road to try to prove the globe. If you do so, like probably every flat earther here, and I can tell there's many in the chat, if you try to prove the globe, you will find there are indeed no proofs. And it's actually the opposite. All evidence, all applied physical science, and all demonstrable reality points to a world where all water lies level and horizontal, and there's no movement, all right? Now, we can go from there, but I bring it back to logic. You made the claim, you support the claim, prove it.
Can I share something, Steve? Sorry, thanks, Steve.
Yeah, go ahead.
I get the proof part when it comes to commerce. Now, this is more tapping into the eye of the beholder and the Plato's cave ideal. You have to really actually engage your senses. The fact that somebody's already given us the idea that something up there is called the sun, you can go backwards. You know, the misleading part is what you're going to get with your senses. So we do, all of us, I like to think everybody at the panel here, are engaging in their senses and seeing what we're here. This is not an either or, half full, half empty ideal. This has been peddled many times before. Unless any of us here have been high enough to confirm one way or another, this is an entertaining of the ideals. Now the senses are going to say, I see a whole bunch of nature stuff here, and I'm going to see a whole bunch of stuff actually man-made have done. But when I look at those two objects up in the skies, call them flashlights, call them whatever you want, Horus, the sun, the moon, I don't see anything down here that's similar to up there. But now we do use terms, sea level. So we can lean towards it. But this, again, entertains the ideal. We have no clear evidence either way. But if people want to prove there has to be an outcome. Where if I'm talking to a child now, I said, okay, so you see water. Do you see it up there? No, I don't. So can you confirm one way or another? Now, I get it. People want to identify themselves. I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim. Let me change it now. I'm a flat earther. I'm a globalist. That's fine. But if you're not going to entertain the senses, which they can easily be misled, then we're just playing with one's own image of thinking, oh, yeah, well, yeah, I'm going to be in another group now. And I'm not here to denounce flat earthers, dry land, let alone the globalists. You have to entertain other ideals. And everybody has their own ideals on how they see things. But if we're trying to narrow everything into two ideals, then we're limiting ourselves as a species and as individuals.
Well,
hey, Mr. Steve, may I say something real quick? This is a great topic. And Z, I loved what you're saying. I just wanted to, when you said, how do you explain to your family or people who kind of look at you crazy? I just want to make 3 key points that I felt that were important with the whole topic. Tons of scripture based on it if they're religious or not, but that's not it. NASA in Hebrew means deception too. But you being a military guy and your status, I mean, these things have been around, Operation Fishbowl and things to that nature. And then you listen to the optics of the Iron Dome or, the glass ceiling, things to that nature. The fact is the Great Deception is there. And I do feel like when you talk to family members or people like that, especially in the flat earth thing, you got to go to basics. And that's why I like talk about NASA, because when you tell them, look what it means in Hebrew, they're blown away. It's kind of like showing them the $20 bill with the subliminal messaging of, the optics that's on that with the 9/11. It's basic stuff. But I do want to say the opposition that Z said earlier about him being attacked and then trying to discredit what the flat earth movement or flat earthers are. Think of the pogo optics like Paul Logan or Joe Rogan and stuff. Remember when he trolled the flat earth community, Z, and got all in there just on his YouTube channel for clout and everything, and it was a big deal, but that was just a propaganda game. And I mean, he went to this on a YouTube channel, clout, and then now Joe Rogan's doing the whole thing with it. The fact is, I'm with you, Z, on this. He's a perfect guy to talk to. And I just want to say, when I talk to family and people, I go to the basic stuff and then get into the milk versus meat and things like the operations, like Operation Fishbowl, which is information now, and then the NASA thing and just simple stuff. But then when you get on Z's level and the level I kind of understand him at, it's eye-opening, man. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, Snafu makes good points there, but I wanted to address Dominic. Dominic, your point was well taken, but I'm not going to claim any model. I say I'm a flat earther because it's a term that I can use to identify myself to other people who resonate on this. What I'm saying is there's no proof of the globe, and water and the oceans, and when water is at rest, all evidence shows no convexity, or I should say there's no proof of convexity. So if oceans don't curve and oceans lie level and flat, then how could there be a globe? That's really what it is. But your point is well taken, Dominic. To get into some false binary is probably another trap, a psyop, and deception. Most flat earthers understand that, but I don't want to take that away because people will obscure it. They'll say, well, then what does it matter if it's a globe or it's flat? That's not what it is. The point is they appear to be lying about the cosmology, right? There appears to be a great deception. That's the point. If we get away from that, we start to, because people will say to me, well, you can't prove you can't go high enough. See, when Dominic, you said you can't go high enough, you're right, but you don't, there's other ways to measure things. Okay, when you look at science and a scientific method, you look at a few things. A thing needs to be, you have to take a phenomena. It has to be observable, measurable, and then testable, and then you need to be able to repeat it. That's how science works. So you don't have to just go real high to see it. There's other things you can do to disprove the globe that they say we live on. They say we live on a globe that at the equator has a circumference of roughly 25,000 miles, all right? They say 24,901. Based off that number, it's very easy to calculate the diameter and then the radius of this supposed globe, the sphere. You can use very simple geometry to figure out what the curvature rate should be. You can convert the geometry into a trigonometric calculation to show very clearly what the curve rate should be. When you do that, you find very, very, very definitively that there is no curvature at all to be measured. The reality is we can see things way too far, to the tune that if this Earth was indeed a globe, it would be orders of magnitude bigger than the roughly 25,000 mile circumference that they tell us. It would be millions of miles large. It would throw off all the math. It would throw off everything they have. The reality is, based off the size of the globe they tell us, based off the numbers they give us, there is no demonstrable curvature. That is the meat and potatoes of this thing. If you want to talk about long distance observations and the numbers, we can get into it. I'm perfectly willing to go there, and I can show other basically evidence that disproves their globe claim. That's all I'm saying here is we can disprove it. I'll give the floor back up in a second. I just want to say this. And the other thing about logic is, just because I can show you what a thing is not, I am logically not compelled. There's no compulsion for me to show you what it is. Just because I could disprove something doesn't mean I have to give another theory. That's not logical. Just because I could say, there's no way Steve, the head motherfucker in charge, stole the cookie from the cookie jar, because I can corroborate that he was in a different location when that cookie was stolen. Just because I can disprove their claim that he stole the cookie, I don't have to then come in and try to prove who stole the cookie from the cookie jar. That's not me. I didn't make the claim. I don't have to then give another claim about what this place is. Then how do things fall down? What is the sun and moon and stars really doing? That's not logical. Go ahead.
Well, you should be able to question all the things like just logic, reason, understanding, and feelings. So now there's terms like nothing new under the sun, because humans have been limited. There's things beyond the sun. Now, again, this is one of those things where the distraction is the ideal that you see these two flash ups in there. Could there be other bodies of waters? Yes. Could there be other landmass? Sure, there can be. Atlanta, Germanic, and all that. Now, somebody's going to say, how do you prove it? I said, once again, how do you prove that the dry land called Earth, humans live on Earth, but majority of it's the sea and the ocean. So arrogant as it is, 7 continents. And now you go biblical with the serpents and all that kind of stuff. It's a distraction. Whatever NASA tells us or doesn't tell us, it's a distraction. Sure, you could turn around and talk about where the planes go from north to east, south to east, and all that. How do they land? How does everything move and all that? Those are all mathematical formulas that we've been given. It's when you go beyond your limitation of your conditioning. From the day you're born, you were taught how to read and write and oral speech. You got to go inwards on this kind of stuff.
Look at this. I want to say, hold on, Snafu. So having a conversation with somebody who literally you just shocked their life, you just told them that the earth is flat, you're trying to explain it to them. Going back to the conversation with my wife earlier, I explained to her, the North Pole's kind of in the center of the model. There's land, water, and then there's an ice wall kind of all the way around.
Hold on. I just want to stop. See, you're presenting a model. I'm not up here presenting a model. You are presenting the most common model that's given by the so-called flat earth community.
Right. Well, what I told her was that not a lot of people agree with it, but generally, there's a wall of ice in Antarctica. They want to know what's on the other side. And she's like, well, what's on the other side? I'm like, possibly land, another civilization, who knows what. And then her question was, and I hear it a lot, is, well, why is everybody lying, and how are all these people able to keep this lie?
It's always the question. That's why I start off, because it's always, why is the lie, why and how. That's why I always go to logic, because the reality is, look, why they lie is a completely different question than the thing at hand. It's like showing, okay, Steve, and I know you wanted to talk Snafu, but I'll try to be quick on this one. How would you logically approach a situation if you and I walked into a room, Steve, and we're like detectives, right? We're detectives, and they call us in, and there's 2 dead people on the floor. Let's just say 1 dead person on the floor. There's blood on the wall. There's a gun. Things look fucked up. What's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to say, what? Are we going to say, why would somebody kill this person? We don't even know if somebody killed them. They could have blew their own fucking head off, right? See, it's jumping to the conclusions. You wouldn't walk in and say, what's the motive? You would say, what happened? Was this person murdered? Is this a homicide? Was it an accident? We would gather evidence. After we gathered the evidence and we made certain conclusions, then we would begin to ask, what's the motive? See, everybody wants to jump to the motive because that's where their mind's going to go. Everybody goes there. The thing you need to do is evaluate the evidence first, because the reality is you don't know why somebody would lie. There's a million reasons why they would lie about the globe. I can sit here and give you and like people, like your wife, my reasons. I could say, well, here's why they would lie and here's how they would lie. That's only conjecture. I'm talking about demonstrable applied physical science. When you keep it to reality, when you keep it to objective reality, the lie, the reason, and the why and the how of the lie really become very, very, become much less important.
You know what, Z, you said basically what I was going to say in a ghetto fabulous way, but I'll say it like Gar was going to say it. when he, and this kind of goes with Dom, the whole shape of the Earth. It doesn't matter if it's flat, pancake, swiveled. There's even theories of us going up. I know Z talked about it. I was looking into it too. The fact is the deception is there. And like he said, there could be a trillion, billion, million reasons. I'll tell you one. When you give a model out, it kind of fucks up the whole idea of just looking at the evidence, because the models are we've got to get to the part of the deception first. And that's why having as you say, residual evidences or evidences like Buzz, basically you saw in his face how he told that child, in last years, he's living his last years. He told that child the fucking truth. He doesn't even know, from what I saw through the video. But again, when I see these pogos like Paul and Joe Rogan, Paul Logan went hard in the paint when he was on his clout run. Before he hit mainstream Pogo Optics, and they had him pushing the flat earth thing bad. But the fact is like he said, there's a trillion million reasons. And when you talk about the ice wall in Antarctica, all that, we don't know the model of it. And that's what Z's probably saying. Like, he's flat earth, but like he's saying, but the model of what, he just knows the deception of, we're not being told the truth. I feel, I'm not going to speak for him, but that's how I feel, because that's what I think. But you look at the evidence, like he said, and you look at all the optics, even in the whether you're Christian or not, scripturally, everything, and it points to the deception. And
so here's
again,
my thing, Snafu, is like the picture I have up there. I'm a visual person, and this is more or less for you to answer, Z. Like, and I describe the model to her, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not the model. And it's like, I understand that. My biggest question that I haven't been able to find yet is getting someone who has enough imagination to kind of give me a visual or an illustration of what it could look like. Because when I look up, I see this, both sun,
why the biggest one is the one that you described, the ice wall and all that, is because of the optics with Antarctica. Every country, whether allied or enemy, has a treaty. So like the Antarctica, like even civilian airplanes, civilian explorers, you have to be like that. They have literally cut off a chunk of the world from the people. Like it's like Black Ops, a chunk of the world. And so I think that with the optics and evidence, that's why you see more of that model.
Yeah.
But
so
I think if you grasp at the models, it's going to stop you from.
To answer Steve, to answer Steve's question, and Snafu is making great points there. I mean, Snafu, you were making good points, but to answer Steve's question, I'm going to give you, instead of a model, I'm going to give you the map that the militaries use. Okay, so when you see all the plannings for both world wars, and even right now, they don't use a globe, they don't use the Mercator projection. The most accurate map used for navigation by the militaries and by the commercial industry is the 1892 Gleason's map. You could look it up and pull it up if you want. That is very likely, based off all practicality, the closest map to this actual 1892 Gleason's map. It's called an AE map or an azimuthal. That's it right there. Yeah. So that's it. I don't know if you can make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Do the one next to it. Well, you can do that one. Yeah, that one's a little bit zoomed in. So either that one or the one with the red perimeter. All right. This isn't a model. This is the map that is used in war games, in exploration and navigation. You'll also notice, Steve, this map represents the map seen on the UN flag. If you pull up the flag of the United Nations, you will see the same representation on there, which to me doesn't prove anything, but it's at least interesting. What you'll notice is what you said. You have the North Pole in the center, no big surprise, but notice there's no southern hemisphere. The quote-unquote southern hemisphere, which is basically the latitudes which are south of the equator, are represented here. As Snafu said, Antarctica is represented as a ring that surrounds the world. as opposed to a continent on the bottom of a globe. All right. This is the map that is used practically in this world. It's not the Mercator projection that they showed you in school, the one where you saw the world laid out like if they unwrapped a globe.
Right.
It's certainly not a globe. This is the one. Now, to go back to the model that I'm not claiming, but the model that's espoused by the majority of the quote-unquote flat earth community, you would see the sun, the moon, and all the heavens, basically the stars and the so-called planets, would all be rotating clockwise, okay, around. So the sun and the moon would move in a clockwise fashion around the world, around the stationary world. Again, I'm not making that claim. I'm presenting this as the most common understanding espoused by the flat earth community. And the most common flat earthers that you'll see presenting on YouTube will likely use this map. What you'll notice is everything north of the equator, which would be the so-called northern hemisphere, matches up on this map and the globe. So everything on the globe and this map is identical. Once you get below or south of, I should say, the equator, that's where you see the difference, okay? And we can go from there. So it's just, when you ask for a model, I'm pointing you to the map that is used demonstrably.
Gotcha. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I'm trying to understand the idea, you know what I mean? As in what people see, what does it look like what's underneath it, behind it, you know. I understand that, you know, possibly we're not orbiting, we're just standing still, which brings up another question of, you know, if a meteor comes, you know, some type of, you know, asteroid meteor comes in and hits, it's like the moon, it's a perfect crater. Bam. But I would think it would hit and then, whoosh, right? You know, like a.
Well,
slide.
it's a great point.
So,
like you know about
spinning.
artillery and projectiles, right? I mean, so if you
That's
shot
like
a
that
cannon
railgun thing that you were talking about, Z, the railgun and the sniper, what you're about to go into, yeah.
Well, I was going to go more into what he was saying about the crater and the trajectory of a projectile. If a projectile hits something, it makes a very particular, you know, impression in the ground. It's not a perfect crater. We can get into craters and stuff if you want, but crater Earth is basically flat Earth. It's only not flat Earth if you're assuming a model. The reality is, whatever this place is, it appears to be level and horizontal, everything that goes after it. The main proofs of a level and horizontal world is that we can see too far. The other thing is, rivers would not be able to exist on a globe. I'm going to give this one to you, Steve, which is my favorite proof, my favorite disproof of the globe is the Nile River. The Nile River is a 4,000-mile river that generally runs straight, has a few twists and turns. I already said that they tell us that the circumference of this globe at the equator is 25,000 miles, all right? Let's just round it to 24 for easy math. If they're telling us that we have a Nile River that's 4,000 miles long and a circumference of this world that's 24,000 miles, that means the Nile River is 1/6 of the circumference of the whole globe. Are you following me, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
That means the Nile River in length is 1/6 the length of the circumference of the globe. So I want you to picture a basketball, and if you took a string that was 1/6 the circumference of that basketball and laid it on top, that's the Nile River. What I'm trying to point out is the reality is if the Nile River were to exist on a globe, it would have half of that river would have to flow uphill to the tune of hundreds of miles. Do you understand what I'm saying? Rivers would be flowing against gravity. The Nile River or any long river, the Mississippi River, the Amazon River, disproves and debunks the globe right on its face. You see?
Well, there's quite a few rivers that flow up, right?
No rivers flow up. All rivers flow down. All water goes down. It would only have to, what I'm trying to say is, if we existed on a globe, it would mean that rivers are flowing against gravity. I'm showing that that's impossible.
But that
You see what I'm-
assumes that in space there would be no top of the world, right? It's just matters of perspective. So it wouldn't
right, because
actually
it's not
be
about the top. Because gravity, the theory of gravity is it's pulling everything towards the center of the globe, which is the center of mass. If we want to get in the upside down thing, that's another thing, because we assume gravity. The only reason you need to know what the only reason someone else talks, so I'll give it up in a second. The only reason you even need a concept of why things go down is because somebody told you were on a globe. If you take away the globe, you don't need to know why things go down. Things go down because they're more dense than the air around it, basically. Now, I can give you other theories of quote unquote gravity, but the only reason you need the theory of it's called the theory of gravitation, which means that mass is being attracted towards mass, which is based on Einstein's 1915 theory of special relativity. That is how they're defining gravity now. But I'm gonna yield on this. The only reason you need to be told why things go down is because they say you live on a globe. If we never were told you were living on a globe, things go down because they're heavier than the air. Plain and simple.
Well, I didn't mean to say down. I kind of meant in elevation, right? So the southern end of a river will flow towards the north because of the elevation it's at. Correct or incorrect?
It's not about north and south. It's about sea level. So it just goes down towards sea level.
But if we were spinning, wouldn't everything go towards the equator, right? So you would actually have all the water.
A bulge. Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually try to say there's a water bulge, believe it or not, but that's a whole story.
You know what's interesting to go with Z? I put the link in your chat actually. The Department of Earth and Planetary Science used a 3D camera angle with one of the highest mountains or whatever in the world, and kind of the straight level thing, and they used this 3D camera, and even the Department of Earth and Sciences have pretty much said, hey, it's flat. We believe, and they show this video. You can watch it on your own, Steve, or you can share whatever, but it's going with what Z's saying about, just horizontal, vertical, and it's based off the rivers, off these mountains. I mean, they find it's measurements through the things that are not moving, so to speak. But even the Department of Science Technology with the 3D technologies, I mean, this stuff is kind of coming out subtle, but there's also resistance to it, and it's because it influences the mass. Because if the mass woke up, imagine the mass waking up to that great deception. That's the big thing.
Was saying about the deception, because ultimately it's like, why would somebody lie? It's like, obviously, why would somebody tell you something that you can't supposedly figure out on your own? You need advanced technology to even observe these things in a lab by tools that are made by experts. So obviously they told you some shit that you can't look up yourself because they don't want you to look into it. You know what I mean? And that's what really the rule of experts is. It really defies common sense. And it goes to things like gravity. Why should anybody believe gravity? It's totally made up by Isaac Newton in the 16th century, and it's based on the Kabbalah. This guy was studying Hermeticism and the Kabbalah, and he understood that God had this process where he drew back from the world in order to make space for creation. And this is where he understood. It's called Zimzum in the Kabbalistic ideas, that he took this idea called Zimzum, which is God's drawing back in the Talmud, and he used it to construct the theory of gravity. And this is not even heads or tails about it. Like, he was actually used it, applied Hermeticism to these concepts, and Kabbalistic concepts. And the same thing with Newton's theory of evolution, because that's the other big one they throw out. It's like, the whole idea of evolution assumes that there's teleology in nature, but you can't really prove that there's teleology in nature without the presence of like some sort of universal mind or something like that. That's why the guy who created the theory of evolution, Alfred Russel Wallace, was actually like a Freemason who believed in like animal magnetism and like stuff like that, in order to prove this thing, because you had to have teleology in nature to prove the theory. You know, nature had to be pulling towards something, had to be pulling towards greater forms or whatever. You know, well, since Newton pulled the rug out from under that and made his theory totally, materialistic, he couldn't explain those changes. You know, so it's just fascinating stuff. You know.
And Z, you should tell him, especially with his military background. I thought the conversation you had the other night, and then the sniper, and I've heard many snipers tell me the same story. You should, because DD, I'm sure you've had a lot of friends you've known, snipers or combat. I'll let Z explain it, but they were talking about. It was the railgun. It started off with your railgun thing, Z, and I've heard that story a million times by marksmen. What you guys were talking about in that specific subject about line of sight and just there's no curvature.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Steve, whatever you want to get into, man. I mean, Snafu makes good points. There's a lot of things that I could bring up that will debunk curvature. Whether we talk about you can see too far, the railgun, we can talk about electrostatics, we can talk about radio transmission, which is basically just electromagnetic energy. We can talk about sonar. There's a lot of things we can talk to debunk
talk about
any idea. Yeah, the railgun's one of the biggest ones. So the railgun is.
I like the fuck out of that proof.
I was looking for this old video. I asked the airline pilot when I went flying to Florida, and they actually admitted to me that it was flat. I was looking for the video. I have it.
Here's the thing, Steph. That makes a good point. A lot of people go, "Wouldn't pilots know? Wouldn't pilots know?" Well, the reality is, a lot of pilots know. Most of the pilots in this so-called Southern Hemisphere know. They're the ones that know, because that's where everything goes wonky, is once you go beyond south beyond the equator, because that's where it doesn't match up to the globe. It's the Qantas pilots out of Australia. They can't talk about it. Some of them do. But I'd rather like Steve kind of guide it, because I could throw a million things out here right now. But again, if anybody listening who's new to the subject, like Steve's family or somebody, they're just going to get hit with a bunch of info, and people just fucking white screen. The reality is, people have to understand that the theory of gravitation, proposed like Machine Lies said by Newton and then expanded upon by Mr. Einstein, is a theory. It's not a law. It's not a physical law. See, that's what people have to understand. A theory will always be a theory until it's proven. A law will always be a law until it's disproven. The reality is, the theory of the globe, the theory that we're orbiting around the sun, is not proven, and more so goes against all the laws of physics. I tell people you don't live on a globe because the globe is physically impossible. It can't exist because it violates all the fundamental laws of physics. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Because if we were moving in the way they say we're moving, we would feel it. We would see it. All right? If we were existing in an atmosphere next to the near perfect vacuum of space, it would be impossible. You can't have that situation. You can't have atmosphere existing next to a vacuum. It violates every law of physics there is. It only doesn't make sense because when you bring this topic up to people, they're presupposing the model that they were taught. That's what people can't buy. It's a begging the question fallacy. I'm going to bring it back to logic, because when one is trying to prove something, it's a logical fallacy if you're presupposing the very thing you're trying to prove. People presuppose globe from indoctrination, and that's the problem. People are no longer taught how to think. They're actually taught how not to think. They're just indoctrinated.
And that's a crazy thing, because if you go into the philosophy of science, these words like law, theory, and model, they carry heavy presuppositions just behind these words. You know, for example, like a law, like what exactly is a law of nature? You know, since nature began to exist, like meaning like they believe in the Big Bang and evolution and stuff. So they believe that there was an actual beginning to these things. Well, what were the laws of nature doing before these things began to exist? You know, did the law come into existence when the thing came into existence? They can't even answer that fucking question. You know, if the laws were there before something started, you know, then how do you have this brute process of
Right.
emergence, you know, through the laws, you know, and then a model, you know, a model is something where you know, it expands your way of predictability, because you can only prove stuff within a model. But a theory has greater explanation power, but you can't encapsulate everything within a theory. You know, a theory is open ended, you know, so to
Right, and
speak.
that
A
kind of
model is closed, you know, but you can't expand on it. You know, you can't apply it to anything. You know,
that kind of bounces off what Dom was saying too. You know how, you know, when he was kind of talking to Z, but I wanted to bring up the word thing, the magic thing, and the deception thing. Imagine the influence of the mass with deception. He's right. This goes down history, way deep, 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 back in the days, deep. And you got to just think about it. It's like the optics of, like, I kind of liked how you said, because they ask why, and it's like, well, why is the deception probably of the optics, you know, of the first man? I mean, first lady, Big Mike, right? The deception of influence to the mass. And I think that's a huge play, especially like with the magic of the word, so to speak, because even our English language is a deception to most. They don't understand how, like you said, Steve, everything has become a lie, so to speak. And so when you wake up to these agendas in play, they truly are connected. And that's why the machine lies was totally on point back in the day. But and I like how he ended that, because it does go off what Dom was saying, and even Z was saying. It's not necessarily, is this the model, but they're being deceptive. And it goes with all the deceptions. Like, why is Big Mike the first? Think about it. The first lady was actually a man. Think if the public truly found that out. The ones who are sheep, who still can't think. Think of the uprising. Oh my God, the first lady was actually a fucking man. Now imagine the world waking up to a deception of the shape of the world. These deceptions are tied to the dark agendas from back in the day, and that's why the NASA Hebrew means deception. It truly is all connected.
So I wanted to go back to the railgun. I guess
Yeah.
you had already spoke about the railgun. Z, is that what?
Well, I
else
spoke
did you
about
know?
it maybe a couple weeks ago on my show. So the railgun is a Navy. It's basically a modern day cannon. All
Mhm.
right. So it shoots a projectile. It shoots a 7-pound projectile. All right. At over Mach 7, almost Mach 8. Okay. It shoots a projectile line of sight 115 miles. All right, Steve. It's a cannon that shoots a 7-pound projectile 117 miles. It uses electromagnetics. All right.
I understand.
It's
I mean,
me-
I know the railgun. I was just curious of
All right.
where this is fitting into.
Okay, so I want you to think about it. So 100 miles. Now, we told you that I said that they tell us that the globe that we live on has a certain circumference at the equator, and that's roughly 25,000 miles. The reality is, at 100 miles, there should be over 1.5 miles of drop. Do you understand?
Mhm.
That means there should be 1.5 miles bulge of earth in between that gun and the target, dude. That's like 8,000 and some feet. The question is, how could the railgun hit a target 115 miles away when there should be 1.5 miles of drop? What I'm trying to say is
Got
that
it.
target should be occluded by a mountain of either earth or water, right? What I'm trying to say is The railgun, its existence debunks the globe on its face. The railgun could not function on a globe. Not only that, everybody says Coriolis. We're all told snipers have to account for Coriolis. If a sniper would have to account for Coriolis, imagine how much they would have to factor in Coriolis at 115 miles away. You would have to know the direction you were on. You'd have to know the latitude and, again, the direction you were facing. The point is the existence of the railgun and the fact that it could hit a target 115 miles away, a line of sight, debunks the globe on its face. It's impossible. And many things about the military, because I'm assuming you have a number of military listeners, there's many things in the military that debunk the globe. I want you to think about this, Steve. Say you have a submarine. That periscope comes up out of the water. That periscope can see a boat at pretty much this measurements that exceed what the curvature rate should be by magnitudes. That periscope debunks the globe. You have to remember, guys, if we live on a globe that's 70% water, that water has to bend and curve. That's the part that people have a hard time understanding. What I'm telling you is all evidence points to a reality where water, when at rest, lies level and horizontal. Water level is what we use to define level. You use a spirit level. All large-scale geoengineering projects are based off simple Euclidean geometry, which works on level and plumb, square. There's no earth curve calculated anywhere in a large-scale project. I'll put it like this, Steve. Say we want to build a bridge, right? Me and Steve, they're commissioning us to build a bridge, right? We're both engineers. We're going to build it over a large body of water. You see how big some of these bridges are, right, Steve? Some of these bridges are huge. Like in China, they go on for miles and miles. Now, you're on one side of the lake, the river, whatever, I'm on the other side. So we're going to start building this bridge, but you're going to do the one side and I'm going to do the other side, and our projects are going to meet in the middle, okay? The reality is when I'm building my part and you're building your part on the other side of the water, we're not building up to account for earth curve. We're doing everything level and horizontal. If you build a tunnel like the channel that goes under the English Canal, there's no earth curve. Canals. The Suez Canal debunks the globe on its face. It couldn't exist on the globe. The water would not stay in on a globe. It has no locks. The Suez Canal on its face debunks the globe. I'm pointing out things that exist. They're phenomena. They're not theory. You understand? The railgun exists. The Suez Canal exists. The Nile River exists. Periscopes exist. Lighthouses exist. Radio waves, radio transmission exists. Sonar exists. The existence of all these things disproves the globe. Nobody just wants to talk about it.
All right, Z.
Hey,
All right.
V, can I?
So hold on, nephew. I need to
Oh,
go
go
back.
ahead.
So we're talking about the railgun, and you use the word line of sight. Now, when you are zeroing in a weapon, you're doing like a battle zero. Everything is going to drop. Your trajectory is going to drop. So I'm assuming when you say line of sight, and I understand how the railgun works. It shoots very fast. It's supposed to shoot very far, like hundreds of miles, right? You're almost never, and it was built for the Navy to go on the ships.
Navy, yep.
Right, and they're not using them because it destroys the barrel. It
destroys the barrel. It's got so much kinetic energy that it literally turns to plasma.
Mm-hmm.
It just melts everything on the inside.
Now,
you can only shoot it a couple times.
I'm assuming when you say line of sight, you're thinking that it's literally just shooting perfectly straight.
No, line of sight means from here to there. Like, say we're playing.
So what you have to do? Hold on.
Yeah.
So when I was training, we were going to do weapons qualification, which you have to do. You do a 36-yard BZO is what it's called. So you get on the ground, you take 3 rounds, you shoot, you turn your aperture, rear side aperture, and you dial it in so you're on. And that is basically the same drop that you would have at 36 yards, so you're going to have at 200. So when you shoot from the 200, you have your setting. You move to the 300-yard line, you raise your aperture up, so now you're changing your trajectory. So that's the same thing with the railgun. They're not just
same thing.
There's going to be a trajectory because no matter how fast it shoots or how powerful it is,
It's always going to drop.
It could be a fucking bow and arrow. Bow and arrow. You're doing a trajectory. I don't think has anything to do with curvature. It has to do with the density and then, of course, the munitions you're using. So I'm not trying to debunk. I know you're gearing it towards that, but it's basically trajectory. So I don't associate that really because you said it kind of like, oh, well, that debunks globe or debunks curvature or you know what I mean. Not that I'm an expert. It's been a long time since I had
because here's the thing: of course they have to angle it up. They're probably to shoot 115 miles. They probably have to put it at maybe like a 45-degree angle. But the point is, there's no calculation of the 8,000-mile mountain that it would have to go over of earth curvature or water. That's the point. 8,000 feet, I should say. 8,000 feet. You understand what I'm saying? That's never calculated in. It's just what I said. It's line of sight. Of course, you have to adjust for the trajectory. But when they calculate the distance, that's what I mean, line of sight. They don't calculate a distance over a hump of water or a hump of land that would be the earth curve. That's all I mean by line of sight. But I get what you're saying.
I wasn't sure if you were mistaking it for sight alignment, sight picture. There's a lot of things in this shit.
No, that's a good thing because you gotta, just like the sniper, you gotta. I mean, I wanted to ask you because you're always talking and putting good shit on this, and I wanted to ask your thoughts on this. You're always talking about the level, the land, the stuff. What about like the things such as the firmament, so to speak, or the theories of that, like the Operation Fishbowl, the things that have happened above, or so to speak? Like, do you have any thoughts on that stuff too? Like. With this,
we can go into that. All right, so I'll give you the stories.
We're up in the air, the firmament, because I know it's like below the water thing, and we've seen the optics of that and the stars, the blurry stars. Like if you look at these stars, they're not blinking. It'd be like a flashlight in the ocean, so to speak, or what you call it.
Yeah, I know you put a lot out there at once, but I'll go like this because I was talking about stuff we can prove, but let's tell us what Let's just go by what the military apparently was doing, what they tell us, all right? And in the late 50s, they apparently did an operation down in Antarctica, apparently led by this Admiral Byrd guy, all right? And actually it was after World War II. And they did what's called, it's called Operation High Jump. And they went down, supposedly down in quotes, to Antarctica, and they explored it. Apparently what they found was very enlightening. Very enlightening.
Says about it is crazy. He's like, talking about a hole and like stuff coming out of it. Isn't that right, Z?
That was with the North Pole. He went to the North Pole too. Yeah. That's a different story, but similar.
He went to both of them.
Yeah, but with Antarctica, he said they found an area of land larger than the Americas that was unexplored, okay? That's not describing the Antarctica that they give us, which apparently is 13,000 miles in circumference, okay? So the point is they went down there and they did Operation High Jump, all right? At some point, they, after that, they signed what's called the Antarctic Treaty, which I believe was 1958. Snafu alluded to it. The Antarctic Treaty was signed by all the major players and nations of the day that said that nobody can do independent exploration of Antarctica. Antarctica was off limits to the plebes. A year later, in 1959, they formed NASA, okay? In the early 60s, 1960 or 1961, they performed a military operation apparently called Operation Fishbowl, all right? It was with an Operation Fishbowl. They apparently sent a bunch of bombs up really, really high, and they found out that when they hit a certain level, they exploded. Apparently, they used this testing to, as Snafu said, show that there is a hard firmament-like substance that apparently is in the sky, which would make sense to me if we have an atmosphere. But again, these are all like stories and things like that. So the idea is that the military apparently knew when they were instituting NASA that nobody was going to go to fucking space. There was no globe. It was all bullshit. And actually, we may live in an enclosed system that indeed is level and horizontal. It goes back to what Snafu was saying. The military knows. It's not just a bunch of goofballs like Z on the internet coming up with theories. It's just that the people in the know are aware of information that they're keeping from us, which goes back to the deception. The military knows. The people who run shit know. This isn't like something that they're unaware of, which begs the question that people are going to say, well, what is NASA? What does that mean? Are they just faking everything? And that's a completely different story. But what you want to look at, you look at Operation Deep Freeze. If you want to do the research, you look up Operation Deep Freeze, Operation High Jump. They were both had to do with Antarctica, and then Operation Fishbowl, which took place in the early 60s when they were apparently finding the firmament. If you look at the Encyclopedia Britannica from 1958, it will show you that they found a firmament at 13,000 feet, 13,000 feet in Antarctica. Okay, they found a hard ceiling. They put it in the Encyclopedia Britannica in 1958. You could still find it. Once they signed the Antarctic Treaty, once they instituted NASA, by 1959, that information was gone, never to be heard from again. Steve, Flow State, Machine Lies, and Snafu, if we had $1 billion each and we wanted to go to Antarctica, they wouldn't let us go. We'd have to get permits. We'd have to go through a governmentally approved company. They would bring us down to a small peninsula. They would show us some penguins, and they would turn us around. We cannot go to Antarctica. We can go to Mount Everest. We can explore everywhere else. But for whatever reason, we can't go to Antarctica, and that's a fact.
And here's the thing, too. Think about this. Allies and enemies have kept this treaty from day one. Allies and enemies, that's something to think about. Through all this time period, that's one thing that they've kept on is this treaty. And there's been a lot of people who've tried to take private Cessnas, private planes, tried to explore, dropped off, hiked through, and they will meet military, the world nations resistance. I saw this footage just 3 years ago. This YouTuber guy had tons of money, decided to take a private plane. He was a pilot, try and fly out there. Next thing you know, fighter jets threw up, and it was allies and enemies, not American, Russia, you name it, all kinds of shit. And they threatened to shoot him out of the fucking sky. He fucking ended up getting all these federal charges and all this shit just for flying out there. And again, Z, this is a great topic, good things. I just was curious what your thoughts were with all the firmament talk. That's kind of, and you went really well on the timeline. So yeah.
So as far as the firmament, whether there is one or not, here's what I'll say. A couple things. One, there has to be some type of container because, as like I said, if we have an atmosphere, see, you could measure the atmosphere. It's something like 14.7 psi at ground level. All right. And there is a gradient. Okay. So there's less pressure as you go up. There is a gradient of pressure. But nonetheless, we live in a pressurized system. The reality is you cannot have a pressurized system existing next to a negative pressure system without a container. If you have a propane tank, you need the tank. Once you remove the tank, once you pierce the tank, the pressure will equalize violently and instantaneously. Air pressure equalizes in all directions with no downward bias, okay? That is the second law of thermodynamics, of entropy. Most people associate it with heat. It works with heat too. But the second law of thermodynamics shows that gas pressure will seek an equilibrium. You cannot have a pressurized system existing next to a vacuum without containment. It goes against all the laws of physics. Only a theory of gravity can tell you otherwise. And again, it's just a theory. Nothing shows it.
But that wouldn't apply to the sun. How would you explain the sun holding together, though? I mean,
Well, because you would have to presuppose what the sun is. Who says it's anything? That's the thing.
well, in the heliocentric model, it wouldn't work. It can't be a ball of gas in a vacuum that's on fire.
Yes, exactly. It's the same principle, exactly. How can you have gas existing next to a vacuum without containment? People will just say gravity and over again, and I'm saying it's a theory because if you test it physically, it doesn't happen. I'm going to put it like this, Steve. Ready? Here. If gravity is holding the air to the earth and keeping it from escaping into the vastness of space, you should be able to demonstrate here where gravity is the strongest on the ground, because it's supposedly stronger here than way up in the sky. You should be able to show that. But the reality is, Steve, if you take a pressurized system and then you have, let's say, a container, you have a contained pressurized gas, and then on top of it, you have another chamber that's empty. If you open a valve, okay, and then join those two chambers, if you open a valve, you'll find that that gas instantaneously equalizes. If gravity was holding the atmosphere down, it would hold that air pressure, it would hold that air down and prevent it from going up into the chamber, but it doesn't. Gas pressure seeks equilibrium instantaneously. It's the second law of thermodynamics. It's a law because it happens always. They only tell you that the reason we have an atmosphere existing next to a near perfect vacuum is because of gravity. But gravity demonstrably does not hold air particles down, even at sea level where gravity should be its strongest.
Is it pulling you down or is it pushing you down? You know what I mean?
Well, we can go in the gravity because there's different theories of gravity. Now, gravity just means weight. Gravity means that things have weight to them. What we're talking about really is the theory of gravitation, which goes back to what Machine Lies said, instituted by Newton in the 1600s and expanded into Newtonian concept of the Einsteinian concept of gravity, which is based on the bending and warping of space-time. But the reality is, if you ask me why things go down, I can tell you very simply, because they're more dense than the surrounding air or the surrounding water or whatever the medium is. Things that are less dense rise, like a helium balloon.
On that note, I want to mention two things that I've heard that I don't know much about. One being that heliocentrism is tied to Luciferianism, and number two would be that like people like Mean Mr. Mustache and like the Vril Society and all this are like like a lot of occultism in general is tied to flat Earth. Do you know anything about those two aspects of it? Because it seems to keep coming up the more I try to find out like the why question. All
right, here's what I'll say. You said heliocentrism. Here's what you said, heliocentrism. Helios is a sun god. You can look it up. There's a sun god, Helios. Many people say, as you did, that for occult ritualistic reasons, they metaphorically and metaphysically designed a model that places the sun in the center of everything as opposed to the earth. So there's an argument to be made that they say that the sun is really the center of everything and everything that revolves around it as an ode to the sun god Helios or Apollo or whatever other version and whatever culture throughout history you want to tie it to. So there's that. Now, as far as occultism around flat Earth, I really can't speak to that except saying maybe these mystery schools were just aware that we live in an Earth that appears to be flat, or should I say level and horizontal. Flat's not really a shape, it's a description. It's level and horizontal. Maybe the Vril and the Tool Society of the Aryans, the so-called Aryans, and the Nazi Party, maybe they were just aware of the reality. Of course the Nazis knew it was bullshit. Why do you think the Nazis were so enamored with Antarctica? Why do you think they all ended up in South America, which is a hop, skip, and a jump away to Antarctica? If you want to get to Antarctica, you got to go to South America. That's the best way to get there. It's right there. If you go down to the Tierra del Fuego, which is the Ring of Fire. Not the Tierra del Fuego. Yeah, maybe that's – I got to look up the article. But anyway, it's the southern tip of South America that's right near Antarctica. Why the hell were they all there? Why were they so interested in Antarctica? It goes back to what the original gentleman was saying. Are there other lands out there that they're hiding from us? Are there other beings out there? Why the secrecy around Antarctica, and why were the Thule Society and the Nazis so associated with it? The Nazis were just basically the modern incarnation of the Aryan understandings. When they say Aryan, it's not what we were told. We know Aryans as the Nazis. The Aryans were a culture that preceded the Vedic culture, which is the Hindu culture. The Aryan culture may be the oldest culture that we could point to on this earth, even older than Sumerians. For some reason, the Thule Society and these occultists were very interested in Aryan understanding, which would probably show the true nature of this earth.
And just for people
and also, I wanted to say this whole sun thing, you know, again, the deception is why I think it's related to the occult practices, because, you know, anything with the deception to the mass, you know, that's a plus, you know, what they call. But with the sun thing, let's not forget the observatories that got shut down right before these renewal of the treaties with Antarctica recently. Remember those those observatories that were getting shut down? But remember China's sun simulator. I mean, they're making these claims. I think just like with CERN, we witnessed the ritualistic nature before they did it, you know, with their whole like hoo-ha dance and bullshit rituals, you know, with the collider. My thing is with the sun simulator and things to that nature, I believe they are rituals of sorts tied to the occultish optics in play, the beast system agenda, my belief. And that's why we're seeing these optics being put in play. So I just want to talk about that because the sun simulated shit and all that, China making their claims, and then the fact of, you know, like you said, it is the sun god, as you said, and just I was thinking of CERN and the rituals. It's so deep, and TML has gone into it before on some of those, how deep it is.
And also, I just want to mention really quick, like for people who are wondering about the Aryan thing, it's Indo-European religion, which led to all the other religions as we know it. And a lot of people say that that's what the Khazarians or the Iranians or what you're talking about with the Thule Society. This is the underlying belief structure. And again, like I don't know if that's true, but a lot of it ties in directly to what people would call like Prometheus for the Greeks and Lucifer for the Christians, right? So this is very, you know, somebody seems to take it very seriously. Whether we should or not is a different question, but some people seem to take it very serious, you know.
So, Z, you see this asteroid Bennu? Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Do you believe that was a real mission?
No, I don't believe anything the NASA says. I'm not saying everything's complete bullshit, and they may be up to other things, but no, I don't believe that they went 15 billion miles out into deep space, took a sample from an asteroid, came back, and then studied it. No, I don't believe it at all.
You saw how they were making a big deal about how they were just so shocked that there was dust on everywhere.
I saw them make a big deal in the summer of 1969 where they had everybody watch Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walk on the moon too. I saw that, man. It's just par for the course, man. It's just par for the course. The reality is, if we can go into outer space, if outer space was a place that we can go to, if the moon was a place we can go to, they would have never needed NASA. The Air Force would have did it. You wouldn't have needed NASA. If there were, you would have expanded aerial technology and flight technology to space. NASA was created as a complete deception, as Snafu noted. It's complete bullshit. NASA was founded by and instituted and led by one Werner von Braun, who was a former Nazi SS officer that was brought over here with all the rest of them in Operation Paperclip.
Operation Paperclip. And you know what's funny about that?
Beginning.
You know what's funny? It's funny you mentioned Operation Paperclip because a lot of people forget to or tend to forget the optics too. of the Stargate. Like I've had combat veterans. I don't know if you could vouch for Steve or not, but I have personal ones I know who said that when they went out there, it was the weirdest shit ever. They were raiding museums and taking quote unquote old ass artifacts, Stargate, so to speak. Okay, when they were out there in Iraq and stuff like that. And then you witness all this disclosure with Mexico and these aliens and this beings. And then, of course, Project Bluebeam and our skies manipulated through whatever it is, you know, that you could look at the sky and say, hey, in 98, it looked different than it does now. I mean, are we looking at fucking, you know, holographic shit, Project Bluebeam already activated or not? But the
Probably
fact
just a
is,
lot of plane spray.
well, that too. The fact is, though, is these disclosures, these agencies, and it all ties up to what I was about to say. NASA is not only part of it. The reason I mentioned the Stargates, all this shit, and the alien disclosure, think about what new branch of military just came out. Okay, and we're witnessing the Great Deception, right? Space Farce, right? And look at the emblem of what's on Space Farce. It's the Sphinx.
Well, this is everything's occulted.
You know,
Everything
yeah.
they do is occulted. All of it. It's ritualistic. It was carried through the mystery schools. Most of it is based off the ancient mystery school of Hermeticism, instituted through the Kabbalion. This is what they follow. This is very likely. You see it in the mystery schools. You can see it in things like the Theosophical Society that was brought up. You can see it in the Golden Dawn. Okay, you can see it through all the principles of Hermeticism. These are mystery schools. It appears as though the true information has been carried by the elites throughout the years. It's been obscured from the average plebe, all right? And they presented us with a religion, a cosmology, an educational system, and a history that appears to be completely made up and instituted for control and deception. That's the sad reality. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning. Most people cannot grasp the magnitude of such a deception. So in the face of information that contradicts the reality that's been presented to them, they will reject it because they are not prepared to face it, because the information challenges their entire paradigm, their worldview, the lens through which they see this world. Our very identities are based on the deception, on the conditioning. To embrace the things that we're talking about tonight challenges one's identity, the foundational way that they view themselves in this realm. It's too hard. It's too hard for people to let go. So they will abandon logic and they will emotionally cling to the fantasy that's created for them, because the consequences of opening oneself up to the truth is too difficult for almost everybody.
All right, so check this out.
Exactly.
If you look at, in general, just an open-mindedness, you know, of believing something that you may have not believed years ago or however long ago, this is kind of for machine lies. So when I look at the flat Earth, or I look at the globe, and almost 95% of all these conversations in the panels are really to do with the scriptures, biblical histories, you know, stuff like that. Where does say either Catholicism, what Christianity, are those two different levels? In the scriptures, the Bible, and the writings, is it pro world, or is it pro like flat? And if you do,
flat.
If you believe either or, is that just another?
There's tons of scriptures that are pro flat, man. It truly is pro flat.
So here's what I'm saying. I know you want to give it to machine lies. It's going to take 2 seconds. It's
Right.
procreation. The scriptures say we live in a world that was created by a creator.
Right.
And I'll leave it
That's
there.
better.
Yeah, and that goes to some of the original thing, because a lot of the church, when you go to Aquinas, you know, they combined a lot of their stuff with Aristotle. So Aristotle believed in a hierarchy of being. That's where they hijacked the theory of evolution from. And he also believed in kind of a proto-hermetic view, like how Z said that you know, the theory that's floated out today is Hermeticism. And if you look at Hermeticism, it's anti-church. You know, so it basically inverts the church theology. One of the first things it says is as above, so below. You know, so that already discounts that man has a central place in the cosmology, because all of nature is a reflection of the forms, is what that really is saying. You know, as above, so below is really that nature is an emanation of the forms above. You know, it's not saying that you know, things are going to come down, or that nature is a reflection of what's out there in space is what's going on down here. That's actually a misinterpretation of that. And then in the Hermetic corpus, it says there's two things that come to be. I mean, it says the two is all there is. What comes to be and what makes it. So it's like there's two things since the beginning of creation. There's God, and there's also matter. And God forms matter through the void, and that's also Aristotelian, you know. And also Hermes itself kind of means hidden in plain sight, because Hermes is really
hidden in plain sight. And you know what's funny? It's hidden in plain sight. It comes to these great deceptions, Steve. Think about it. When he talks about the attack on the religions and things like that, in God we trust, right? Or the Statue of Liberty, okay? You Google Statue of Liberty and Ishtar, it's the same thing. And so, like, these things are in front of our face, like he just said, but hidden. You know, and that's what I'm saying. This is, you know, for every average person, Statue of Liberty, freedom, blah, blah. Well, what's the statue of Ishtar? What's Ishtar represent?
Yeah, it's
fertility,
funny.
Sex,
it's funny and ironic.
And where we at, America, you know?
Well, really what I was trying to gauge was the dogma, right? So the way this is just my perception. I know you guys can correct me, but don't get upset when I when I give my explanation of what my spiritualness, but oh shit! I think I just pulled a Jack Talk out. What the fuck was I about to say? Smoked a little weed.
Praise God.
Yeah, praise God.
Praise God.
No, so like, if you're gonna, you know, does whatever Bible you're reading, is it making you believe a certain way, and can you change if you believe something else? Like, let's say the Bible's telling you that the Earth is flat, and let's just say it's proven, like, hey, Elon Musk is giving free rides around the globe, and you physically have proof to see that it is a globe. How would that break down in the religious?
Well, there's two things that basically tell you that it's going more towards the flat model, is because first of all, there's anthropocentrism in the Bible. That means that man is at the center of whatever's going on in the story. So that already discounts that there's like space out there, hundreds of planets with fucking nothing going on, that makes man just seem insignificant. And then also man is created by God. So that discounts like dinosaurs and evolution and all that shit. So it's
right.
Like the scientific model has got to be false. If you believe in the Bible, it's got to be false.
But
there can't be space and there can't be evolution.
Like, I know you're extremely, you know, educated in this level of you know, the scriptures and text. Let's just say it's a hypothetical. It can be proven that we are literally on a globe, the solar, everything that we were taught. Let's say it was actually true. And even though we went and tried to find the flatness, how does that change everyone's religious, you know, history? Like,
well, here's the thing, though, Steve. Most religious people now believe in the globe and all that stuff. If you went to the average church, if you, Steve, went on Sunday to church, closest church to you, whatever denomination, and you interviewed everybody in there, every single person except maybe one or two out of 100 is going to tell you, yeah, it's a globe, it's a heliocentrism, it's this, it's planet. They're all going to say it. So there is no contradiction. There's no separation, man. When people like me talk to religious people, you would think it's like what you said. They would be like, yeah, man, God said he separated the waters from the waters in Genesis. Then he created the sun and the moon. And then there was a flood where he opened the floodgates of heaven and stuff. No. All the religious people, they're just embracing the globe, man. That's not it.
You know what? There's hundreds of verses to back up the globe, but Z's right. Most average people with the Christian religion will deny it or think it's globe. But it's kind of like the Mandela effect too. A lot of people who know that it existed in Bible changers, these preachers know about it, but they're not going to deny it because they don't want their congregations to flip out. But what I've noticed too is specifically with religion, Steve, the question you kind of asked is kind of like saying, do you believe in the rapture or not? You know, because you know what I'm saying? Because there's half of them that believe it's, you know, then, and then the half says, well, it's never in there. So you get those kind of contradictory situations when it comes to religion. But Z's absolutely right. Most of the time, they're going to say globe. But if you really break those down, it kind of like TML says, it really is flat based, I believe, in my opinion, from what I've read. And there's thousands or hundreds of scriptures to base it off.
The Fermi paradox, you know, it's about man's insignificance, and I know Z knows about Fermi paradox. You know, it's like
yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, did you want to go into Fermi paradox? Because I'll just it's
you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say about the Bible, man. If you look at the Bible, what does the Bible say? It says the world was created by God in a very specific way. It describes it in a very specific way. All right. If somebody was strictly doctrine following Bible believer, they should no way believe in a globe. It's completely contradicted by scripture. That doesn't mean that proves anything. I'm just making a point. I'm not saying scripture proves a flat earth. I'm not even saying that because I or anyone else adheres to scripture that made him become a flat earther. The reality is, Steve, that it's the opposite. When people discover they've been lied to and they live in a level horizontal earth that could be called flat, that brings them back to spirituality because they realize, oh, if it's not what they're telling me, if it's not a big bang, that means it's not evolution. It means that we live in a creation, and a creation implies a creator. You see? So you asked me why I think they're lying about this. Like I said, I don't know why they're lying.
Well, it's a common question, you know. I mean, everyone wants to say, well, everything's a lie. A lot of people, they still think, you know, that we have rights in this country. You know, there are a lot of things. People think that you should obey. You know, when cops tell you to get out of your car or give me your license, people think, oh, you should just do that. You know what I mean? So when it comes to the flat Earth, it's like, man, you know what I mean? How can you ease it in there? You know, to want to believe that, to change, it's fucking rough.
Hey, Steve, did you see that link I put in your private chat?
Maybe.
You can even play it unmuted if you wanted to, because like I said, this is a department of Earth and Science. And they basically, like I said, used a 3D map technology, and they're coming out saying, you know, it's flat. And the graphics with what that video shows, I mean, it's pretty intriguing. And if you want to play it on mute, you can, or watch it yourself personally, but it's in there. Yeah.
Do we need to hear the audio?
Well, you can mute it, but it's from, like I said, you could read the article above it real quick, or if you just personally, but it's from the Department of Earth and Sciences, and they use the technology because, like I said, the periscopes, the whole curvature that Jesus explained, things like that. I mean, they're basing this off mountains, just like the Nile River and all this other stuff he's already covered. So, but yeah, it's pretty intriguing. It's short, but I just want to make sure you got it.
Well, yeah, everybody's seen the India landing, right?
Yeah,
I think the fact that India's landing is so fucking cheesy, and that everybody, like, I dropped a link in the back chat too with reactions to India's moon landing. One of the congratulations is from NASA, another's from the UK Space Agency. Like, so clearly, all of our institutions are helping prop up that terrible performance.
Right. And it shows what the reality is, because once you can see through this lie, you realize that they're colluding in the fake space presentation. It means the Russians and the US, as they were presenting us a Cold War, were colluding with this fake space presentation. It means now these seemingly oppositional countries are all colluding, whether it's China, USSR, India, US.
And you know what's crazy too? A lot of you guys don't pay attention to this shit because I know you don't get it, but I watch sometimes congressional hearings. All right. And they recently had one 4 months ago, and they were straight up. It was amazing. Most people, that's why it's funny, because a lot of people, I get the whole politic theater, you know, blah, blah, puppet show. But these congressional hearings that they were holding 4 or 5 months ago, I mean, were truly amazing. I'll have to pull it up and send it to you. They were calling out NASA because of NASA's online website, on NASA's official YouTube channel, and their official web pages, all the crazy footage of like the mice or the styrofoam cups or the fucking wires that they see, all the bullshit that, you know, people are conspiracy could know. It's gone to congressional hearings, but because we're so turned off on the theater but bullshit show of that, we miss some of these gems. To where they're like in front of, like, you know, in the Congress, you know,
Like
setting,
Apollo,
and they're straight up calling these people out. Like, why is NASA on their official website posting shit that, like, are you guys doing this at the facility in California? You know, there's styrofoam cups, there's wires, there's fucking mice, but this is officially, you guys say, you know, and it's sad because I do believe that the whole agenda in play has taken the people from foreign and domestic to even look into, like, their own shit. You know, I ain't gonna watch none of that shit bullshit. And some of the shit was like straight up. I mean, they were going
Well, hey,
hard.
Snafu. So going parallel with that, let's change this subject to the side with the congressional hearings and all that. So they had all of these pilots. These people did investigations about all these UFOs that we had on video. They were not debunking anymore. They were saying it's there. They said they actually had non-human biological matter.
Yeah, I did a video.
So,
They have and that's what I'm saying. Mexico, but like I said, people that I know military-wise, when we went out to Iraq and Baghdad, all that, buddies were telling me, dude, not only were we kicking in fucking small huts and fucking we're certain weapons, find a couple of arms here and there, but we were going to museums and we were fucking taking weird ass artifacts that they claimed are Stargates. Okay, and these are fucking dudes I know that fucking straight up brother, like just like you, Steve, but like in it. I'm telling you, it's all there. The disclosures are part of the agendas in play, and they're actually beta testing a lot of this shit in like Dubai and other countries. So yeah, these congressional hearings, like they straight up said, we have alien biologics, like basically, you know, but because of the whole shit show with the Biden sniffing, all this Trump shit and all that, everything going on, and the people just in the mode, they don't pay attention to shit. And anyways, nothing happens anyways. But the fact is, they are holding these congressional hearings and they are like saying the shit that we're saying. So I laugh at Jack Talcott when he says, "Oh, I want to change the world." It's like, dude, everything we're saying here, they're actually saying on a bigger platform too, but it just gets swept under the rug. But yeah, that one with the alien, Steve, yeah, they basically straight up said, I've watched, and I watch a lot of that stuff. I watch the congressional hearing, things to that nature, because of what I do, these puppet theaters and pogos and all that, government op. But no, I do encourage people to check it out more sometimes. I know it kind of turns people off, but especially on some of these deep subjects, they talk about what we're talking about. They tell the people. It's their way of telling the people, but everyone's so sheepish, it don't matter.
We know that they lied to us. We know that they're deceiving us. And there's a lot of shit that they just can't tell the public because you freak the fuck out. You know what I mean? I get that. But it's just one thing that I just think about quite a bit is, where do these fucking aliens come from? You know what I mean? You have to make a decision. Is there a firmament? Are we, if there is a firmament, where did it fucking come from? You know what I mean? How did it get through?
I believe they're here.
How did it get through? So then it's always been here.
I believe they've been here. I believe fallen angel type shit. That's my personal fallen angel type shit.
Yeah, there's so many ways we can go with that. There's so many. So, like, Steve, what kind of questions? Like, what kind of what kind of questions do you have that you think that, like, the average person who never even thought about this, what would they have in their mind that, like, maybe some of us up here could kind of maybe address?
Oh shit, man, I wouldn't know. I mean,
ask the audience.
Yeah, I guess
everyone's digging the stream. Ask the audience.
Well, let Steve ask the audience, and he could kind of filter through that.
Right on. Well, I want to take a pause here because there's quite a shit ton of people here. I wanted to say thanks for everybody who showed up. We normally don't talk about flat Earth a lot, so don't expect to come back here, maybe here, unless you guys want to see that shit, because we really talk about a lot of shit here. Try to keep the drama to a minimum. So I just wanted to give appreciation for everybody that came out tonight, especially Z for kind of sticking it out there on your show this morning. If people kind of missed at the beginning of the show, we were a little bit of sandpaper, but we're fucking men. We worked our shit out fucking the right way. We didn't have to yell at each other or fight for months and long to figure shit out. So
yeah, because anybody here's, you guys can tell I'm not here on YouTube to fuck around. Now, I'll address things with certain people. If I have a beef with people, well, we'll beef it up. But hopefully you guys can see I'm not here fucking around.
No, we're actually professionals. That's why I kind of look at it. Like, if you're gonna come up here on panel, be a fucking professional. Snafu, everyone knows how he is. He's been real fucking professional. Flow State, he's always professional. Machine Lies, we're all professionals. You know what I mean? So I know people get heated, and the tempers may flare, or discussions get a little crazy. But if we can bring it down, I would definitely like to do this more. Have intelligent conversations. Not that I'm intelligent, I'm fucking dumb, but that's why I got you guys here, is to help, answer my silly questions that, you know what I mean? You guys are kind of,
hey, I'm going to put a shameless plug. So. Snappy Snaps 8, my channel struck. Fucking bastards.
Yeah, we'll make another one.
Appeal it. My channel got struck like 2 nights ago, and I appealed it, and it was instantly back.
Really?
Pretty amazing.
Fucking bastard.
So I'm going to ask
the chat. Steve, thanks for allowing us up here, man. Thanks for the show. I'm going to go, but I appreciate Z. Thank you as always, brother. TML, thank you, Flo, Mr. Flo, Mr. Steve, and all you guys, man. The optics are high. And I think the one thing we could take from this is, like I said, this was nice to talk without even in opposite sides of the coin, but without like the craziness. But the fact too is, I feel that the biggest thing we could come from this is deception that influences the mass versus those who with eyes to see and ears to hear, basically. And that, it is big, it's deep, and it's more deeper than most even understand. Like Z said, most people aren't even caring. They don't care. Just like I mentioned the congressional hearings.
Right on, Snafu, buddy. Thanks for coming. Get the fuck out of here, buddy. Bam! I kicked him out. Fucking see ya.
He was on his best behavior I've ever seen.
That's
he
great.
Did fantastic.
I'm fucking proud of him, man. He literally let people see that he's fucking normal.
Now Tommy has to step his game up.
Yeah, fucking normal. But no, let's ask the chat. Is there any questions that anyone has, for a flat Earth, a crater Earth, globe Earth? Something that you don't want to feel. You can ask it here. There's no ridiculing. You're not going to get made fun of. Ask a question. Anybody in the chat? Am I missing it?
What are you
gay? What do you say? Why are you gay?
We can hear you, Flo. You left your mic on.
Fuck you.
Don't do anything indictable.
Right. I gotta read the chat. This is a lot of friggin' work. Looking at the chat, engaging with you guys. I got like 10 screens open. Hopefully I'm not sucking too bad, but and I'm high now, so I probably wasn't. Yeah.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
Right on. I don't see any questions in there.
Well, because there's a lot of flat earthers here.
Yeah.
How about this? Just for anybody who's if you're a flat earther, put FE in the chat. That way, when like Steve's family watches this in the future, they'll realize that there wasn't only like a couple idiots up here with this dumb idea. Right. Let the world know that you're even if you're not like a flat earther, maybe just like tell people. Because I could imagine Steve's gonna like try to show this to his wife, and then like she's gonna be like, who are these weirdos?
It's exactly. All my videos I try to talk about stuff that my family hears me talk about it, but I don't get it back at it. You know what I mean? I don't get anyone kind of like with the same level of knowledge. So it's
Yeah.
it's nice to be around people who are much smarter than me. So.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's a bunch.
Okay.
It's like I said before. A lot of people don't like to talk about it, and they think that people like me are obsessed with the topic. I may be obsessed with it because, to me, it's such a grand deception that I'm endlessly fascinated by it. I'm endlessly fascinated about how this whole thing, like you said, the why, the how, the logistics of it. When I always say what the why would they say? Well, people say to me, why would they do this? Like, why? What would be their motive? Well, let's get back to what you were saying. Everybody, 99.99% of the population of this world is under the belief that they live in a infinite universe with ever-expanding galaxies. They're under the belief that they themselves evolved over billions of years from a single-celled amoeba. They're under their belief that everything was created from a big bang where nothing became everything, and somehow matter formed together to basically progress to the humans that we see today, and that you basically evolved from pond scum. Everybody just believes it. No one's just thinking about it, but it's a belief. It's an underlying foundational understanding that people hold unconsciously. Based off that belief, people behave in certain ways, because most of our thoughts and actions and behaviors are based on the unconscious, stuff that exists below our conscious mind. Based on these beliefs, people behave and act in certain ways that makes them very malleable and subject to control. Because when you believe that everything came from a big bang, and when you believe that you evolved over billions of years from a single-celled amoeba, you have an understanding that there's really no God in that situation. There's no higher deity, okay? So why would they lie? I don't know. Because if they can trick you away from noticing the creation that, for me and people like me, is quite obvious, they can trick you away from understanding that there is a creator. That's why I think they lie. Other people could say other reasons. They could be including more land. They could be doing it just to fuck with us.
When I think about it, I don't know if the Big Bang Theory is the right way, and I think Machine Lies will know what I'm talking about here. Again, I'm a fucking Star Trek fan. Love the show. Like I literally, use that in my daily life. So they show in that show that we were, just an amoeba, piece of algae that just fucking grew, and that's what started, life on the planet. It makes sense to me. I don't have really anything. I guess maybe there's a question. So that making sense to me. What could you do to make me think that that's not how life got on this planet? Just like people just automatically drop on there, and all of a sudden we're writing shit and we're reading shit.
I'll go back to what I said before. Just because I can falsify a thing does not oblige me to give you a new thing. Meaning to say, just because I can tell you that, just because I could falsify evolution and show that it's bullshit, doesn't mean I then have to say, well, this is how people got here, because that's a logical fallacy. You see what I'm saying? So what I can say is the reason there's no evolution is because there's no proof of evolution. The reason there's no evolution is because, again, it's physically impossible. Things don't become more complex. The law of entropy shows that things seek equilibrium. They degrade from more complex to less. They don't go from less complex to more. There's nothing in nature anywhere. There's no phenomena to show that. It's only a theory, an unsupported theory. That's why it's called the theory of evolution, because there's no proof for it. I can give you any theory you want. It's just a theory that's being promoted by large scale, like the theory of everything. I can give you a theory on whatever you want. Until I could prove it, it's still going to be just a theory. It's just they say the theory so often, it's proclaimed by the so-called authorities, and it's placed into our consciousness from the earliest age that we can even view anything, the earliest cartoons, TV shows, school, it's all about evolution, dinosaurs, solar system. These things
Yeah.
were presented to us at such a young age. We presuppose them as fact when
Yeah,
the
what
reality is they're nothing other than belief.
Yeah, what Z said about the about evolution disproving the second law of thermodynamics on a planet-wide scale. That's an absolute fact. There's more complexity in a beetle. There's more in the biochemistry of a beetle than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. The amount of complexity it takes for life is exponentially more complex than anything going on in any of the stars or the solar systems. And that goes back to one of the main premises in Star Trek, which is the prime directive. The prime directive kind of assumes the Fermi paradox. It kind of has it baked into it, which is that you can't disturb the evolution of another species, because doing so might disturb their technological development and cause them to wipe themselves out of existence. This is based on the fact of the Fermi paradox that I was going to go into earlier, which is that actually one of the reasons or explanations behind the Fermi paradox is that once a civilization reaches a sufficient amount of technological advancement, they face like extinction, an extinction level event, and that's one of the reasons why they explain why there's no life anywhere else on the universe, which is paradoxical, because if evolution is true, then such fucking life would be possible everywhere. We would have observed it millions of fucking times, because we're able to observe fucking shit that's way far away, and we never observe anything like what's going on the earth. So the mystery of us not finding life across the solar system, I mean, it's not a small mystery. If they've really been exploring space for so long, either they would have found us, or we would have found them, or they already have, or you know what I mean?
And if you consider the complexity of just even like an eyeball, and think about that in terms of evolution, how could you have an eyeball evolve the way that it's
Yeah.
explained? Are you going to have like the iris show up and do nothing for generations, or does it all just pop out at once? Then do two
Right.
individuals both have the same mutation manifested? It just doesn't work.
They just present a time frame that's so great that it just boggles your mind. It's the same thing they do with the astronomy. They just give you these stars that are so far away, trillions of miles away, multiple light years away, that it just boggles your mind.
Well, you got to think
That's
about
just
it.
how they do it.
If
They
you
just say,
don't
well,
know, you don't know. You'll just, I think this is what it is. This is what, you know what I mean? Everything. We
you'll
don't really
defer
know.
to the experts. You'll do what everybody does. They defer to the experts. Somebody knows. Let's say, what would you know, Z? Don't you know there's scientists that went and they spent years and years and got a PhD and they studied this? They'll defer to the experts, which again, I will point to logic. There's a logical fallacy. Okay, it's called an appeal to an authority, an appeal to consensus. Just because a bunch of people say a bunch of shit, no matter who they are, no matter if they're wearing a white coat, no matter if they have a degree from Cambridge, Harvard, Princeton, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make it true. It's just a bunch of people saying a bunch of shit. It's one of the
Gives
prime
them a
logical
conflict
fallacies.
of interest. They have a conflict of interest in telling the truth if they've got their time, energy, and status invested into a lie.
Well, they'll need a
Well,
job.
say, look at the doctors over the last 3 years and how they all capitulated, even the ones that knew better, because they were too invested.
Yeah, chemotherapy, that works. 90.
Right.
We're
going to attack your cancer by microwaving you.
And 3% of it actually works.
Back as to why they would even do it, I look at it as a training exercise more than anything. Whether it's religion and the Trinity, for instance, in Christianity, or the globe Earth, all of these like macro beliefs are training people to ignore their own experience in favor of what they're told. It's all just obedience training.
You nailed it, man, because
Yeah.
if you can get people, if you can get the mass of humanity to believe in something that contradicts their experience, it contradicts their entire reality, you can get them to do anything. If you can convince a bunch of people that they're moving when you obviously know you're not moving, you then have a society ripe for control. Flow State just nailed it.
I wonder what happens if we can somehow remove this divide. There's a divide between globe, flat earth. There's a divide between spiritualness and a creator and not. You know what I mean? What happens when we can get rid of a divide and all people could agree, you know what I mean, on one
It's
thing?
a deeper fundamental difference, don't you think, than just this particulars? People who believe in the globe, like staunchly, probably also wear masks.
Well,
there's a
Flow State makes a
clustering.
point. I know
Yeah.
a bunch of flat earthers, and none of them fell for the last 3 years. None of them were walking around with a silly mask, and none of them went along with the medical recommendations of mainstream medicine. None, zero flat earthers fell for it. So that tells me something. But I would just say this, Steve, it's really, to me, it's less about like, how do we, stop the divide, because it's really truth versus falsehood, or truth versus non-truth. But I'll say this, I do agree that we need to work on bridging the gap in so many ways between the V'd up people and the non-V'd up people over the last 3 years, between the flat earthers and the people who believe in the heliocentric globe model. I just focus on what are our commonalities. What commonalities do we share that go beyond those things? That's probably the most important.
I'd like to high five Z for the improve. Your presentation on this topic has improved so much since.
Flow State used to get on me because when I first came on here, Steve, as you know, because you were a part of it, I would just like start eviscerating people.
Yeah.
And I went through that, and like Flow State's knows my evolution. But Flow State, I consciously came on here tonight. I told Steve this morning, I said, I'm going to come on. We're going to have a nice, rational conversation. But I appreciate your feedback, Flow State, because you are correct in that it very likely, and of course, comes off much better, and it's not going to just shut people down. I'm over my ego about it, Flow State. I'm over my anger about it. I'm over my resentment, and I'm to a place now where I can kind of have this conversation without taking it personal, man. But you're right, 100%.
0 to 60, Z. You used to be. You would just break bad, like out of the blue. Bam! Fuck you, motherfuckers! You fuck face! You fuck face!
Mark my words. This time next year, he'll be here telling us the virtues of eating pussy.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
That's not going to happen. Now that could be the next show. Hey, everybody, show up for the next show where Machine Lies, Flow State, and Steve discuss should you or should you not participate in Cunnilingus.
Clean vaginas got to start with a clean vagina, and you just don't do it some bitch you met yesterday.
I mean, that's good caveat there.
You know, it's a good
You
start.
can check, if in doubt, check the oil first, you know.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to turn the lights on. Right on. Well, hey, gentlemen, I'm going to close this down in about 10 minutes. So we got about 10 minutes to fill, unless you guys, or still want to have fun. I guess we could take it a little longer.
No, 10's good, man. It works in my book. It's perfect, man.
I don't like to go too crazy long. You know what I mean? That way, if people come in, they're not watching hours and hours of content.
Me too.
And on the replay, it makes it harder if you've got like 8-hour live streams. Then the
Yeah.
shit in the middle is completely missed.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I keep my morning show to 3 hours. Anybody who doesn't know me, you can find me at Zetetic Warrior here on YouTube. I do a 3-hour morning show from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And we do stuff like this. We talk about Cunnilingus, the pros, the cons. We sing songs. We do sing-alongs. We do all kinds of stuff. I try to get laid.
Butter in your
What?
coffee. But learn
Right.
stuff, butter and coffee. Never knew that was a fucking thing. My wife's like, yeah, butter in your coffee. That's fucking normal.
What the fuck?
She goes,
Yeah.
yeah, I
in
put
coffee.
butter. Yeah, butter.
You put butter in
And,
your coffee?
Yeah, it's called Bulletproof. It's butter, coconut oil, which I usually don't do. I just do the butter, and it's butter and coconut oil. And if you want, you can put a little bit of honey or sugar in there or whatever. But yeah, it's the butter.
I mean,
it's
makes
good,
sense.
man.
Cream works good, so why wouldn't butter?
Yeah.
Honestly, butter makes everything better. I can't think of not one thing that isn't made better with butter.
I'm a huge butter fan, man. I mean, I'm not huge on dairy, although I do eat cheese sometimes. But butter, I don't include butter in dairy. Like I know it is, but it doesn't have the properties that are more like that like mess with my system. I'm a huge butter fan myself.
I don't fuck with margarine either.
No, margarine.
Oh, no, man. No.
Butter.
Back in the day, though, my parents used to get margarine.
So did mine.
I can't believe it's not butter, which wasn't bad actually. But
I like making my own butter. Garlic butter, herbs, fresh garlic, roasted garlic. Some good shit because that's that Italian in me.
Yeah, I see your wee is coming out.
Yeah.
Wait, I guess that'd be French, wouldn't it?
No, man, we love cooking. I mean, what do you cook for yourself, Z?
Yeah, I can cook. Yeah, I can cook a little bit.
I can cook, which means you can't cook. You don't.
No, well, because I'm basic. All right. So my dinner is here's me cooking. Ready? I go to the store. I get the broccoli. I steam the broccoli, right? And I put some salt on that, and then whatever my protein is for the night. That's easy. I just fucking fry that up in a pan, and then whatever my carb is going to be, and that's it. It could be a sweet potato. It could be a potato. Sometimes I eat bread. So yeah. I'll, saute the shit up. I'll steam the vegetables, but you're not going to see me cook like a whole meal for myself. It's not, but I eat very simply. It's just not it. I could do it. I mean, I pulled it off, but I'm just not even inclined for that. But we've all seen your garlic bread recipe, Steve.
I haven't seen it.
I still need that recipe. You told me where to find it. I forget where you said.
Yeah, it's a chef on YouTube, Chef Jean Pierre.
Oh,
Jean Pierre. It's down in South Florida. That's fucking great.
Yeah.
No, right on. What about you, Flo? How's your channel going? You gonna try to stick to maybe a schedule or just impromptu? Hey, I'm fucking going live tonight.
I've tried to never stick to a schedule with anything in my life. So, yeah, I'll probably keep it at that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I should, I should do this or I should do that. But at the end of the day, I have a lot of things going on. So it's pretty hard for me to commit to something, especially when, obviously the thing, and before I say this, I appreciate you and Chuck and the people who have donated, but there are things that really support this much more than YouTube does. It's a lot more of the dollar return on investment. It's just, you can't support a family with it. Right. So I got to choose where I spend my time a little bit more practically than a schedule.
Here's what I'll say. Now, I'm coming to this understanding on myself is that I look at even the bigger content creators in our arena and they're not even really pulling in anything significant to support a family. You might be able to get by if you're a single guy or whatever, and you eat grilled cheese sandwiches every fucking day, and you live with your girlfriend. Right. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not speaking about anybody in general, but if you're somebody who's supporting a household, I'm not saying you can't do it. People make millions of dollars on social media, but the reality is, people in this arena aren't generally pulling in that type of cheddar. It's just
not with a couple thousand subscribers. You got to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
Exactly.
Do that. Because I actually have a customer. He's a YouTuber. He's got over 3 million followers. He's got over, I think it was 3 billion views in his channel. He's loaded.
Lambo, bro, you got to leverage that connection right there.
Yeah, actually, no, I hit his brain a little bit, but he plays video games online. He gets fucking
I
paid.
don't fucking get that trend.
Yeah.
You remember growing up, and it was the worst thing in the world to have to wait for your fucking friend to die at the game before you got a turn? Yeah. What the hell's wrong with kids now?
You don't want to have to pass a controller playing Mortal Kombat or, whatever. But, no, you can fucking make a really good living, but none of us here are doing that. Nowhere near it. I don't think that's why we're here anyway. It's nice, I would think, to have something for, it's like a tip. You know what I mean? It's like for your time, if you're having good content, you deserve to have a pat on the back. Hey, thanks for me watch some shit, because we know we can go to other channels and hear the same bullshit that we just watched from 7 months ago. someone giving me shit, he's still giving the same people the same shit today. Like it's fucking old news, you know, at least freshen it up some, you know.
Right. But, you know, on the subject, there is a potential for financial gain here. If you do this, if you play your cards right, if you put the time in and whatever circumstance, there's financial opportunities here.
For sure.
I mean, there are. I mean, it's plenty of people are doing it. But in this, you know, truth game, whatever this truth game is, no, not really like people think. And that's what I was saying before. Oftentimes, at some point, a message will have to be either co-opted or in some way altered to a more mainstream presentation if somebody really wants to get the fiat going. It just seems to be part of the game. It's just this little weird thing we're involved in.
If I were to try to set up a money-making channel and I had no ethics, I would for sure do Christian content. Praise Jesus.
The Christian grift is the greatest grift that there is in terms of money.
For sure.
Oh yeah, fucking
Built in.
run a bit like and just try to suck all that money in.
Read some Bible, do you know, preach to the choir, you know. Amen.
Yeah, that's why my last few shows, I've actually lost many subscribers because I decided to talk about Christianity, and it is very unpopular topic to even question or talk about it. And yeah, try standing on the opposite end and try to talk about the Bible, what you think about it, without telling people what they've been told to think about it. It's very, very challenging. I mean, the people, you know, the attacks, you know, the attackers come out of the woodworks, really. You know.
Well, I'll say this, Machine Lies. I said this on an earlier stream. Of all the different people I encounter, the most, how do I say this in not a harmful way? The most aggressive, the most vitriolic, and the ones who evidence the most hate tend to be the doctrine-believing Christians, man. Ironically, they seem to be the most vicious and nasty. It's just been my experience here. And I resonate very strongly with the scriptures. I just don't classify myself as a Christian. But the ones who do come after me hard, man. They don't want to hear it.
No, that's my whole life. Christians have always been the most judgy. You know what I mean? My son's mother or my son's grandmother, she's Christian. She is such a hypocrite. You know, all she does is talk about, you know, Jesus. But man, she just judges the fuck out of everybody. She's mean to everybody. And it's like, wow, you know, aren't you supposed to be, you know, loving and caring? Like, where the fuck is that? You know, so that's what kind of steers me. Like, man, I don't want to believe that shit. If I just want to be a good person. So that's not a good person. I'm not going to be doing that nonsense. You know, so I can see why people get upset because.
Yeah, and I can say that, you know, even though there's not a lot of Muslims, like, you know, in the community, I'm basically like the token Muslim. but the thing is that, you know, the same thing applies to the Muslims. You know, they get vitriolic. You know, they start believing. You know, they don't believe in
throwing
the
rocks
correct
at
version.
people.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't really get. It's like they didn't really get the message that's written down there. You know, to be honest, you know.
Well, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's everybody. Like I don't really judge people unless you do something, you know, an action. You know what I mean? I don't judge someone by their beliefs. You believe what you want, but if you do good and you're being good, then I judge you off that. If you're not doing good, being good, then you know, I'm going to judge the living shit out of you. That's just how I am. But no, everybody, I think we're going to close it down. Fuck Flow State, he left. He doesn't have anything to say, so fuck you, Flow State. Thanks for coming by. But any last words, Machine Lies and Z?
Yeah, I'll go first. Much love, everybody. Steve, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, man. This was great, dude.
Excellent.
I regret
job,
yeah. What was that? Machine Lies?
No, I was just saying it was excellent. Your presentation, I enjoyed it. I learned a lot from what you said. Yeah,
appreciate that, man. I got a lot out of your stuff too, man. Appreciate it. It was cool. I think it's the first time I was on a panel with you, Machine Lies.
Yeah.
I know you stopped by and said hi to me the other morning. So
that's right.
Feel free to stop by. I mean, I don't know where you're located on this world, but you know.
Detroit. Yep.
Okay, so you're a little bit behind me in time zone. So I'm live 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time each weekday. Yeah, come visit me, man. But Steve, dude, thanks for having me, dude. It took me too long to get here, but I'm glad I came, and I'm looking forward to coming back. Everybody who showed up in the chat, much love as always, and it was definitely a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for inviting yourself, bud. I had been wanting you to come here for a while, so you're the one who basically popped my cherry into this flat earth thinking, opening my mind. I couldn't say I would have done this a year ago, really. I was really closed-minded back then. So, but Machine Lies, thanks for coming, brother. Becoming a regular. Appreciate seeing you here. I will say that I would love to get on your panels, but you guys' intelligence level when it comes to your topics is just way above, kind of like in my realm. But I do watch, you know what I mean? And I'll comment.
Oh
and
yeah, it's kind of a shit show
Mhm.
sometimes. So
Yeah.
you're welcome to
Like I know
talk
my,
shit too if you want.
I know my role, so if I see an opportunity, I'll hop in there. But
Yeah.
but yeah, man, thanks for coming. We'll maybe see you next Friday, brother.
Thank you, friend.
All right,
Thanks for
get the
having
fuck
me.
out of here. Get the fuck out of here. All right, everybody. That's it for tonight. Appreciate every one of you guys coming out. Looks like we just got over 200 subscribers. I'm sure that number will drop because I make people subscribe to get into the chat, just to keep the fuckery down, which really wasn't much. So that's it. I'm out. Everyone, thanks for coming. Have a good night.
Drop that bitch on her head like bang. Drop that bitch on her head like bang.